believe that we are live. Nope. It doesn't say it on my end yet. Hold up a second. What happened? Now we're live. Now we're live. All right. Well, I'm Sheila. This is Conscious Conversation Central, and I'm joined by my gal pal posse, BZ Rieger and Lisa Flameno Rush. Thank you, ladies, for coming back. We're going to finish decoding the president's remarks from July the 3rd at Keystone, South Dakota at the Rushmore celebration. And then we're going to move kind of quickly, and we're going to move straight over into the remarks from yesterday on July 4th. So for those of you, all one of you that are watching right now, thanks for joining us. We're a little early. I thought we were going to meet at 9, but so we started a little early. We left off at, I have it where somebody in the audience started yelling 4 more years.
Yep.
Okay. That's yes, where you guys are. Okay.
Yep.
So the next one, the president continues and says, I'm pleased to report that yesterday federal agents arrested the suspected ringleader of the attack on the statue of Andrew Jackson in Washington, D.C. And in addition, hundreds more have been arrested. Now, I told you two before we started that I really wanted to talk about this one because I knew in the back of my mind that Andrew Jackson was the president who kicked the central bank out the first time. Now, if it is that,
and the idiots let him back in.
If it is that whomever gives the orders, this is what we were kind of talking on this, more than likely what'd you call them, BZ, useless idiots? Or I just refer to them as the unconscious boobs who didn't realize what they're doing for whomever they're doing it for. Probably were not at all aware.
Well, the useless idiot is that they're actually, if as an employee, that's their role and their term. It's
right, exactly.
Because when they're no longer useful, they just dispatch them.
Right. So yeah, I just wanted to add that because to me it felt highly significant that he bring that up. Knowing what is going on, what the banks are all about.
Right. And that particular, because there's been an awful lot of statues, right?
Yes. Well, and like I said, I went and looked it all up to see. I mean, there's a lot of different things attributed to him. But part of it had to do with, letting folks in South Carolina know that if he had to use military force, if South Carolina attempted to secede, this is, all moving up to what would take place later under the guise, in some ways, of what was going on. But it says that he ran on a platform, actually, to advance the rights. I'm quoting here from Wikipedia, and I realize Wikipedia is not all that great a, source, but I had remembered from my school days that was something that he had done. But it says right here in Wikipedia that he sought to advance the rights of the common man against a corrupt aristocracy. And it also and was and to preserve the union, it says. It also goes on further down here to say that he fought with Henry Clay. Henry Clay led the effort to reauthorize the Second Bank of the United States, and he fought with Jackson regarding that. Jackson felt it was a corrupt institution and vetoed the renewal of the charter. And it was only after a lengthy struggle, it says, that he and his allies dismantled the bank in 1835. So I felt like that was a very interesting thing for him to bring up.
Yeah, and look how long actually Jackson wasn't there obviously the whole time, but look at the length of time between 1835 and 1913 that they held it off. That was quite a long time. So yeah.
Well, what is that? An entire generation? Enough for people to forget? Oh, wait a minute. Could that be another reason that we want to tear down monuments?
Sure.
And muddy the waters and say it's all about this, that, or the other, when in fact it's actually something completely different?
Right.
No, none of that could be going on, BZ. No. Oh, I'm sorry. I put my sarcastic pins.
I noticed that.
So, did you guys have anything on that one?
Nope, just what I thought.
Okay. Well, under the executive order I signed last week pertaining to the Veterans Memorial Preservation and Recognition Act and other laws, people who damage or deface federal statues or monuments will get a minimum of 10 years in prison. And obviously that includes our beautiful Mount Rushmore. Again, I think part of that, for me anyway, was a notice to all of the, unconscious boobs who are willing to go and do a thing and not realize what it is that they're doing.
Yeah, I think that, that's an excellent stroke. That's a major deterrent, because, it's the, hey, we're going to go take that come on, like, no, we're going to go take this statue down. What statue? I don't know, some stupid statue, right? So they're not even, if you're going to take a statue down, you should have some passion about who the person's about, and especially if you have a mandatory minimum 10-year sentence. So,
well, yeah, that's an interesting point. I know that was more to this last paragraph about the arrests and everything, but I know these people were feeling quite confident that nothing would happen to them. They're paid to be there. They're provided with everything necessary to do the shenanigans that they've been, prepared and paid to do. And
it's a cool lockdown job, right?
What's that?
It's a cool lockdown job.
Right? Exactly. But here, I think he's laying out the warning of individual responsibility.
Yes.
You are liable for your actions here. Doesn't matter who paid you or what they've promised you. Because I saw on Twitter a lot of people warning one another and complaining about the fact that, this shit got real because we just got arrested and I have a court date and I am facing 10 years.
Yeah, I don't want to go to jail. Well,
let this be a warning, right? We're not taking this lightly. And the fact that immediately the president began tweeting pictures of the people who were attacking the statue and looking for them actively, I knew we had turned a page, to borrow BZ's phrase from the other day, because usually in the past, that was something that was just forgotten and breezed over, and the next day we're on to the next thing.
Right.
So this is putting everybody, in my opinion, on notice that this is a new day and everyone's responsible for their behavior.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of merit to that, especially since, a lot of them, by their employer, are thought of and categorized in the employee status as useless idiot, right? A useful idiot. Actually a useful idiot, but a useless idiot, and which is a KGB term. And I think by doing what you just described, Lisa, Trump was trying to actually give them a break and saying, hello, you know, you may not really understand, have a clue what game it is you're playing, but this is a game to end all games. And, you know, you might want to pay a little bit more attention to what's going on.
Well, honestly, for me, it actually goes to the energetics afoot. Because honestly, when you step back and look at all of what was going on from a more expansive view, at least in my view, as I do that, I see that all of this, that the COVID pandemic, all of it has to do with, what are you doing for you?
Right.
Where are you? Where's your responsibility, accountability, liability? You want freedom. You want sovereignty. Well, stand up and take care of your goddamn self just a second and stop relying on the boobs around the corner to tell you what's going on.
Right.
Do 5 minutes worth of research and make sure you educate yourself for a second. And
Right.
this includes everything. This is why I said it's an energetic, because it applies even more so to the whole idea of the pandemic, of masking yourself up to protect someone else. What? Because they're sitting around the corner smoking cigarettes and eating crap?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but it takes it a step further because, you know, in my direct experience, I've had some different beings who I'd like to have more of them kind of do this, but where they've done something which is over the top and ridiculous because someone told them, or they saw something on Facebook or some other thing, not a clue in their own brain, totally clueless, no responsibility, whatever. And then something little light bulb went on, and so they stopped doing that, but their actions had consequences to other beings, whether they're because it was a business that they had or something like that. And it never occurred to them to go, wow, you know, I clearly I should have done more research ahead of time, or, you know. And so it works both ways. It's, you know, it's, you can't, this is the time where all of us are being unmasked, and we actually have to stand up for and be accountable to ourselves.
Right. That's
not just other beings. And then in that, as we're accountable to ourselves, to say, oh yeah, I didn't see any of that coming, and I stepped over the line and moved forward. Because the energy, the reason I say that in particular is because the energy of, well, just move past it, or doesn't cut it, because it's an energy frequency, again, of the being not being responsible for their own actions.
right.
So it yes, and to some extent has, you know, ramifications and things for other beings that they may have had connections with or interactions with or causational things with. But the weight of the energetic is, again, they're not taking responsibility for themselves. They are not driving, you know, the ship and paying attention to their own energy frequency.
Right. Well, that's why I wanted to bring that out, because I feel like it's an an energetic overall, like a underlying.
I'll be right back.
Okay. Go right ahead. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next one here.
I had another paper towel.
Oh no. Okay.
But hey, I didn't, you know, get upset about it this time.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm just resigned to it.
I see. Okay. And being as you reported that you're out of paper towels earlier.
Yeah. So when I start wringing out my paperwork, you'll
understand. Okay, so our people have a great memory. They will never forget the destruction of statues and monuments to George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Ulysses S. Grant, abolitionists, and many others. Did you guys have anything on that one?
Well, the very first sentence all, is connected and goes with the rest of the paragraph, but it actually, again, is, he's calling attention. It's also meaning something he wants to highlight. This goes back to what we were talking about last night, with laying out the thread of the story.
Right. Because that's coming next.
Yeah.
And that actually goes on further into this, which is why I know that we wanted to finish this one first before we jump to the next.
And so kind of keep that, feel into that and play with, our people have a great memory, because it'll become more significant here, but it'll be something that you'll, a couple days from now, as different things come, you'll go, oh, and you'll see it's a marker.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement there. So the violent mayhem we have seen in the streets of cities that are run by liberal Democrats in every case is the predictable result of years of extreme indoctrination and bias in education, journalism, and other cultural institutions. And for me, I have to say, well, first of all, yeah, way a whole lot. But also because I want to be clear on something. I myself bought into a lot of that indoctrination. One of the reasons that I just kind of mindlessly and blindly followed in my parental unit's footsteps and was a Democrat, because the Democrats put themselves out there as being for the poor guy, the little guy.
Right.
The Republicans were always, those rich people that just want to get ahead, right, and screw the rest of us little guys that are suffering out here. And the Democrats always, put their hands out and say, oh yeah, we're here to help you. But, I am now 58 years old, and I can look back and see, well, not real clear how either one of them two parties has done anything too great for any one of us, to be honest.
No, and again, this is one of the threads, because since an awful lot of beings are not hip to what's really going on, I'll say it that way, some bits here and there, but certainly not the magnitude, and the far-reaching, every nook and cranny, every crevice, every system, every structure, every sector, every one. Ones you probably haven't even thought of that are a system or a structure or a sector, and that one too. So, and he's a Republican, right? But he's not actually, because if he was a Republican, we'd just be in, same amount of trouble with another thing. Yeah. So again, this is one of those things that's important to go to realize, that it's laying down the storyline, and not to and to realize what it is as it's beyond a placeholder, but it's setting the stage of the scene, which is very important. So when all the characters are coming out and all of the things that have occurred are coming out, one can see it. It's helpful because, with an election coming up, so then people can, in short bites, because there's so much, in the world that's nothing's going on, and there's so much that's going on that it's a route you can hang on. So when elections coming up, do I vote Republican or Democrat? Okay, I'm thinking, well, now I'm seeing this Democrat stuff isn't what I thought it was, and for the first time ever, maybe vote Republican. But I think in here he starts to bring it in too, that it's not just one or the other. And he's called out, I think the monikers, rhinos, and all that kind of, and it's not because they're against Trump, it's because, well, there's a big thing right now. Tucker Carlson is masterfully leading the charge of where are all the rest of the people. If the Democrats are, obviously have the cities that have all these problems already, and they're the ones that that are having these riots everywhere. But where's the other side, quote unquote, that's calling attention to this, right? And it's again because the other side is not because they have the same masters. Their payroll comes from the same place.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because a lot of patriots and stuff will think, well, it's just the Democrats, and it's just been the last 8-10 years. Nothing could be further from the truth and more incorrect.
No, and thank you for bringing that up, because, as I said, for me, it's really not against. It has nothing to do with one party over the other, because I've always felt that they were both corrupt. So don't even try to sway that. It's just that, again, and this is just me and how I have noticed my own trajectory over the years, and why I called myself a Democrat for all those years. I mean, in 82, when my child was born, I was homeless. I had nowhere to live. I had a newborn baby. I ended up on food stamps and aid for dependent children and HUD. I was one of those people they were claiming to want to help, right? And so I bought into the rhetoric that was being sold. And it's just a story and a bunch of propaganda that really has nothing to do with really helping anyone. Because the very minute I got a $3 an hour job, every sort of support was ripped right from me. And so that's how is that helpful when someone's trying to? Now, luckily, I had some support around me at that point, at that time. But it's not what everybody thinks. There's this giant.
Well, and the whole path to getting any of those things is demoralizing, and that's the whole. You're paying it back right then and there as you go through it, because
right about that.
That's part of the system, and it's set up. All the different parts of the system are set up to have the maximum degradation on your esteem and your whole outlook and everything else, for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's because of what it said here in regards to extreme indoctrination. Yeah. I really just wanted to point that out because, well, and we are seeing it at this point in time. There's so many people that aren't watching the news, but those who just begin to tune in just a little bit, even if someone who's not watching the news tunes into any briefing, press conference, where you're seeing it from start to finish, not the sound bites. I realize you might not have a lot of time, but I'm telling you, the sound bites are designed specifically to get you. If you watch what takes place from beginning to end and listen to the reporters in the room and how they phrase those questions, and some of the questions, it is very clear to me about this bias that he's talking about there with journalism. So that was it for me. I don't know if you guys had anything on that one. No? Okay.
Yeah, that was good.
All right. Against every law of society and nature, our children are taught in school to hate their own country and to believe that the men and women who built it were not heroes, but they were villains. The radical view of American history is a web of lies. All perspective is removed. Every virtue is obscured. Every motive is twisted. Every fact is distorted. And every flaw is magnified until the history is purged and the record is disfigured beyond all recognition.
Yeah, sounds like kind of what you think of as reality.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, this was a breath of fresh air. Finally, some truth.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Well, yes, it is. But
I mean, he's looking at it just in a quarter of school. But again, I go back to the phrase: every system, every structure, every sector.
Yeah.
well,
And that's why it's, everything is connected. Everything is connected anyways, but it's also connected through this. This is a very effective tool, and it's a helpful way to indoctrinate and well, look at them. I mean, the set it and forget it mechanism in your little robots, because just turn on any clip on any place and they're screaming. They don't even know what they're talking about. And if you stay calm, oh my gosh, staying calm and actually keeping an open heart as they're spinning all over you and screaming and everything else, and you either say, well, okay, well, can you give me an example? I mean, that is just the most blasphemous, hateful question you could ask, right? Or something else, because again, it's the trigger. They just kind of go off. They don't know what to deal with it. Their cognitive dissonance is shattering the neural net pathways in their brain. And because they're not small and they're not missing anything, their being is going, yes, more of that. Go to that, go to that light, because that will help you in this wrestle and this struggle that you're trying to, because, the theory of these people is they want to help. They want to, be engaged in the world. And instead they're just on this electrified rail of indoctrination, super overt. And that's why they have that reaction to people when they do that.
Well, here's part of the issue for me. It's where I have a little bit of trouble, okay? And that is, it has been skewed. It has been skewed from jump. Absolutely true. I mean, the whole thing with the wholesale genocide that was done in this country by our forefathers, lest we forget, in regards to the Native Americans that lived here. In some cases, I mean, what was done to that section of peoples who were here already, it's not, the problem is that the scope of all of it is so big and so wide and so long of a history. I mean, half of those people, the ones that came and founded this country, were not completely well informed either.
Right.
In my view, because look at what happened. The whole thing with the Vatican issuing this whole idea that they own all the souls.
Right.
And no, I mean, that's a real thing.
Yeah, I know. Why do you think that the phrase is all roads lead to Rome? Maybe it has to do with your you don't own your property. The title is actually in Rome.
The thing of it is that, and make no mistake, as far as I'm concerned, this is just the newest bit of trying to divide and conquer, because it's been happening all along, and it's not just, what are they saying now about the Mount Rushmore is a sign of white privilege? Okay, I don't get that either, but the thing of it is, and it's really tough when you start talking about how far back all of this goes and where the actual thing started, because it didn't have anything to do with humans at all. Not just who you're talking about between the different colors and shades of their skin. But let's baffle them all with this bullshit over here, make them think they got to fight each other, so they're not paying attention to the fact that,
Well, yes, but you see that this is a totally aside from this decode, but that's what Anu did with his two sons, is he kept them occupied fighting with each other so they wouldn't dethrone him and gave him something to do with, one was the earth plane and the other one was the airplane, and Inky and Enlil and all that kind of stuff. And so everything is connected. It's this thread that goes through all of that. And this is way, way older than
even 244 years ago. Let's be clear.
Oh, that's not even a sneeze of time.
I know. That's why I said this is just the newest rendition is all. And it really has nothing to do with anything.
But hey, this is the time where we're unwinding and unbinding it all, and it's complete. And so that's the thing that's top of mind in the focus.
And that's why, but I wanted to pull that out because in my view, he's speaking to that right there. That all perspective is removed. Every virtue is ignored. Every motive is twisted. I can see that in almost everything we look at.
That's what I was saying. This again, he's laying down the thread, laying down the storyline. And because it's, multidimensional, there are those layers to it. So yes, if you take just the statues, or yes, if you take just the Democrats, or yes, if you just take the schooling and all of that, not only in Democratic schools, but run counties or states or any of that kind of stuff. But it's in every system and structure and sector. And what is helpful is that you can see that it's like if you're laying down tracks, if you're a musician and you're combining things and you lay down different tracks, they all flow, they all go together. They actually all are, there's a sympathetic nature to them where they dovetail in seamlessly, and they come from way, way back.
Yep. And I feel like that because of what's coming, the reveal of all of this is why he's saying this here, because his next paragraph, he goes on to say, the movement is openly attacking the legacies of every person on Mount Rushmore. They defile the memory of Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln, and Roosevelt today, and we will set history and history's record straight. I feel as though he's saying today we will set history straight. I think there's way more to come on that.
And again, I think it's a thing of, with the tenses, he's changing the tenses, and today as in this moment, right? Yeah. The now that we are here, we've traveled to the thing, and today it begins. Today it's unfolding. Today we set it straight. So it's not just
doing this now.
Yeah, it's not this calendar day, right?
Right.
But so he's explaining different sections that are on the ground live right now, and there's live fire going on, statues are falling next to them, but laying the tracks, the thread of that storyline, which is going to be so important. And so someone just said, well, then why is he not calling it out directly? He is, because it's so layered, and all that one needs to do to help the whole collective get more quickly up to speed as more revelations come through is that it needs to be in the conscious awareness. So like I said, by that's why this whole thing, and I said last night, you'll see more and more of this, and he continues it a little with the speech on the 4th, but it puts it in the consciousness. So the threads and the layers and the warp and the weave of this whole story, so that you can see it, is in the consciousness. It doesn't mean that people have to go, oh, okay, well, this happened and this happened, that happened. When new revelations come, when new, headlines come, when new things get discussed or revealed, or there's photographs or video, whatever it is, that comes and it overlays in this energetic and ethereal plane that's being lit, and it actually helps because it's in the collective consciousness now intentionally. That goes back to what we talked about a couple of videos ago about laying that intention, right? And that whole role that's being played out about that, it assists every being. They don't need to see everything. They don't, a lot of people have been researching for years. They won't need, first of all, they don't have time, and that's enough of that. And there's way too much stuff anyways. But this is being facilitated. They won't need to. And every being who is awake, who's listening to this, who's doing their own things to participate in things, they're actually holding the warp and the weave of this. You're all adding to it and holding that storyline, holding that whole selection that's supporting the consciousness rising. So as each little piece drops in, it clicks into place. And if you were looking at it, maybe if you ever watch, if they're building a bridge or something, right? So they lay down the skeleton of the steel first, and then they have the beams that go across, and then they might lay other things and pour some road bedding or something, and it seems not to make sense, but what it is it's doing the warp and the weave. It's tying it all together. So each being is doing their part of holding that up. You're energetically holding up the superstructure of this whole, from beyond the known history and before the known history, way beyond. You're holding that structure. So because it's there and you're holding it intentionally and you're holding it in the collective consciousness, that supports people in waking up and putting the pieces together and seeing it. And you're seeing it on social media because a lot of people are saying, one thing happened and it just seemed too much. And as soon as I stood into that, I could then look at something that I've been looking at forever, and it made sense. So I could see what these people were telling.
Right. Well, it's just like we've talked about that before. One little piece of expansion. Well, there's been an awful lot of things that have gone into that expansive consciousness, right, that is available to the all. So because, well, there's been lots of things that I've looked at or I've seen before. And we've used these words a lot. Oh, I'd like to look at that with my new eyes.
Right.
Like to look at that again with my new expansion on board. Right. Because boy, oh boy, you see more and you feel more and all of that. So, I mean, right? So I want to take a second to say good evening, Fawn and Kevin Westring. So glad you guys have joined us. I see there's 9 other folks watching. Don't hesitate to give a shout out, ask a question, whatever. I am keeping an eye on the comments there. So was there anything else that either one of you wanted to share on that one?
Nope, we're on 32, right?
Yep. Before these figures were immortalized in stone, they were American giants in full flesh and blood, gallant men whose intrepid deeds unleashed the greatest leap of human advancement the world has ever known. Tonight, I will tell you, and most importantly, the youth of our nation, the true stories of these great, great men. Anything on that one, guys?
No, again, only so he's telling you this true story,
right? Which
is a metaphor for we are in the moments now of the true story of humanity and the truth of who you are. The newspaper, the above the fold stories and everything is all, and below the fold is all coming out.
Yeah. Yep. So from head to toe, George Washington represented the strength, grace, and dignity of the American people. From a small volunteer force of citizen farmers, he created the Continental Army out of nothing and rallied them to stand against the most powerful military on earth, which I know is true.
And again, there's where you might say is a kind of a switching of tenses or switching of the players in the play. So he's because he's laying out the story of what's going on. So he's talking about George Washington and what happened there, but he's also talking about in this present day, right this moment.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels to me like he's laying the groundwork for where we're going.
Yeah.
He's telling us where we've been, and we remember that. And today is the day we do something about it, and this is how we proceed.
Right.
Well, there are those too. For me, the moment I look at this too, I see, I'm reminded of General Flynn's words in regards to the digital soldiers.
Right.
And how that seems to be really shaping up in these moments of now, because, well, there's quite a lot of digital soldiers.
Yeah.
And, they're, could be referred to as citizen farmers in a way. Right?
Yeah, they're farming information, they're farming data, they're farming the connectivity of it's a whole interconnected maze of light that is connecting each being. And as each being connects their light, us to each other and so on and so forth, someone hits that, sees that light, comes into connection with that light strikes them and brings them forward. And so that's because what is a digital soldier but the fiber optics, right? The optics and the connection of electronics and transfer of energy.
Well, personally, I felt I was referring to all of us that are, the digital soldiers of today, who are actually, come on, think about it, folks, especially with all the memes and all the sharings that goes on, standing against the most powerful folks on earth. This is what we're doing every moment that we take responsibility for ourselves and say, not on my watch. Right? That's what I feel anyway.
That's what I was talking about too, when we were having the mass discussion many times before that how deeply that I feel and have a knowing that it would be a compromised nature of my very existence, because this runs so deep to what and so vast to the unwinding and unbinding and completion of this.
Right. Okay, so through 8 long years, through the brutal winter at Valley Forge, through setback after setback on the field of battle, he led those patriots to ultimate triumph. When the army had dwindled to a few thousand men at Christmas of 1776, when defeat seemed absolutely certain, he took what remained of his forces on a daring nighttime crossing of the Delaware River. Y'all have anything on that one?
No, only that again, it's that same laying down the thread, because he's using this as a story. It's also historically accurate, right? But it's also a story that's a metaphor for things that have been happening right this moment, because as you were reading that thing, I flashed to a couple of the different pressers with, the whole task force on COVID and all that kind of stuff, and reports from Milley or other things where missions were going out, and it was, late last night or overnight or whatever it is. So it's also metaphor in a storyline way to help you remember those pieces, so other people might flash as well to those segments.
Yeah,
and I felt like he was really pointing out something very special about him. Was he was not afraid to do what was required, no matter what the obstacles look like. And I think that's something that, hordes and hordes of people are doing right now, and that is an internal call to do what is required in this moment of now, even when it looks impossible.
And I want to add to that, Lisa. Thank you for bringing that out, actually, because what I'd like to add here is, even when you think you're doing nothing, you're actually doing something.
Right.
I honestly, it has come full force into me that we operate on so many different levels of consciousness in so many different realms. Even if you think that you're doing nothing in the 3D, just by your very existence, the fact that you are standing in your own sovereign being, for me, that is the most important thing for me. If I don't leave this house and see a single one of you ever, which is not my plan, but I'm aware that I am pulling myself right into my center, and that right there is enough. That right there is not only enough, but it's required.
Yes, it has huge ramifications for the all, and that goes back to the little recording I did, I don't know, a couple of days ago about stay on the line. So it's not that it's a specific line. The line is your line. You choose the line. You're the one who dictates that, and then as you get there and you firmly hold, you stand and you go, oh, okay, I'm moving the line, and that line gets bigger and bigger. And as each being does it, this is actually what he's talking about. And later on, he absolutely, no subtlety, no storyline mincing of words, no vagueness at all. He says, get off your ass. This is it.
Right. That's what I want.
Get in action.
So they marched through 9 miles of frigid darkness, many without boots on their feet, leaving a trail of blood in the snow. In the morning, they seized victory at Trenton. After forcing the surrender of the most powerful empire on the planet at Yorktown, General Washington did not claim power, but simply returned to Mount Vernon as a private citizen.
So again, this paragraph to me is, again, it's laying out laying the foundation, laying out the story, which is a historically correct story, right? But metaphor. So with the pandemic, so yes, people, yes, you lost your job, or yes, you're having trouble, having money come in and ends meet, or yes, you're being hassled at work with the mask or whatever else, the different things that are going on. And so that is akin to, without boots on your feet and leaving a trail of blood in the snow, but they still seize the victory. And so that skin in the game, that whole essence of you being committed, knowing that regardless of those perceived chaos or constraints or fear or worry or hardship or real hurt, right?
Right.
Yet and again, you still choose that because even if you can't quite enumerate it, that with every fiber of your being, this is the way through. This is what makes the door, the box, the lockdown, the lock on the lockdown, dematerialize.
Yeah.
And only each one of us can do it. Or
Yes,
you stay in that lockdown because you've chosen a different path.
Yep. Well, that's because it's an inside job. So when called upon again, he presided over the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia and was unanimously elected our first president. When he stepped down after 2 terms, his former adversary, King George, called him the greatest man of the age. He remains first in our hearts to this day. As for as long as Americans love this land, we will honor and cherish the father of our country, George Washington. He will never be removed, abolished, and most of all, he will never be forgotten.
Enough.
So anybody have anything on that? There are lots and lots and lots of different things out there about all of these people. No, they weren't the most stellar folks. I realize that. But neither am I. So I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say about that. Anybody in glass houses shouldn't be throwing stones is partly what I feel about that. But that's just me. So anything on that? No. All right. Thomas Jefferson, the great Thomas Jefferson, was 33 years old when he traveled north to Pennsylvania and brilliantly authored one of the greatest treasures of human history, the Declaration of Independence. He also drafted Virginia's Constitution and conceived and wrote the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom, a model for our cherished First Amendment. Anything? I don't really know a lot about Thomas Jefferson.
Well, I think it's the only thing that I would say there is just to highlight that it's very interesting. So look how Virginia's gone, and in this day and age, you've got a governor who's been in blackface multiple times, has somehow got it worked out so that he can pass laws that are absolutely not, never mind draconian, but such an anathema to the energy frequency of Virginia and its history and its whole thread in this whole thing, which is one of the reasons actually to disrupt that energetic thread, that it has to be such an anathema. It has to be so radical to everything else and pushing so hard.
Well, I know that there's a lot of stuff that's come out that supposedly a bunch of new laws went into effect in Virginia July 1st. I'll be honest with you. I'm damn glad I don't live in Virginia. For one thing, but I don't know what's going to take place there, because it doesn't feel to me like there's a whole crap ton of people in Virginia that are going to be real happy about most of those laws. And I do.
No, and in the long history of Virginia, it's a very heavily armed state, and it's
exactly, that's number 2 on the list. Number 3 on the list for me, in regards to all of that with Virginia. Boy, anybody who lives in Virginia, let me just tell you this right now. You best be getting you a copy of the Deprivation of Rights under the Color Law, and somebody needs to start writing to AG Barr, because y'all's constitutional rights just got usurped.
Yeah. Well, you can call them too. I mean, we've got the meme there.
There's an 800 number or something, right?
Yeah. Actually, I'll take that and I'll put that on the Deprivation of Rights Color of Law page, so you can see it right there.
Okay, great. So we'll have that, and I'll put a link. I will put a link in this Show More section again to that. I've been putting that in quite a lot of my videos lately. And okay, great. So anything else on that one, ladies?
Nope.
No? Okay. After serving as the first Secretary of State and then Vice President, he was elected to the presidency. He ordered American warriors to crush the Barbary pirates. That feels important. He doubled the size of our nation with the Louisiana Purchase, and he sent the famous explorers Lewis and Clark into the West on a daring expedition to the Pacific. Now, I don't know enough about the Barbary pirates. All I know is that most pirates were under the actual employ of the British Empire, the East India Company generally. Right. But that was probably, I wouldn't say it was the first false flag, but it certainly, smacks of, well, a little like Antifa, if you ask me.
Right. If you take a look at that. Well, they have a very specific way of doing things, and they just keep doing it over and over and over and over. So you can see the patterns,
right,
from way back.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the reasons that they do that is because of the lineage and the entrenchment of the Anunnaki in that. They don't have the same. They simply in their encoding of their of their DNA and their being, they don't have the capacity that a human does, a humanity does, to be the creative, free thinking part. They can only mimic. So if they have an idea, they can only wash, rinse, and repeat.
Right.
Right? They come up with the structure. They don't have the ability to do that.
So,
Which is why it's very important that they get us all to forget every so often
That's exactly right.
what has transpired, because it's so obvious with hindsight.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
well, now but this is probably a completely different
Yes, it
conversation.
is.
But I got to put it out there because I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one with this question. So I'm going to put it out there right now. So, and I'm going to mark it down as a conversation, because is it, I mean, honestly, is it that they can't create, or because I'm feeling that we're speaking on the puppets, not the puppet masters. The puppet masters, I get it, they can't create. But it has been.
But this is a different conversation. But the short answer would be is that the puppets are sustained in their puppet nest because of their conversion and commingling of that which they are. So the actual frequency and the makeup of their structure. And so they don't see, part of it is they simply don't, it's like blinders. They can't see. If someone's good at logistics, or someone's good at, anticipating something, if you're running, you're putting on some kind of a show or production, or maybe there's a seminar you're putting together, or you're having an event and there's a dog trial and there's agility and stuff. And so logistics, you want to think about how are you going to help your vendors and how are you going to do this, and you're 20 steps ahead before anything's ever started, and all those things will occur to you and go, okay, we'll take this, we have this and this, right? And you still roll it out. That's not something that they can do. Now, they can get people either under their thumb or to thinking that they're the greatest thing since sliced bread and wants to join them, who is good at that, who does have that creative, can maneuver quickly in that. And so they use those, they deploy it. Either they have them, such the goods on them, or in such compromising ways or whatever it is, and that's how they do it, or they bring them into the fold, or they're already in the, groomed that way from the beginning because of their mixed lineage with that. So
yeah, no, I realize I okay, so good evening, Quinn J. I see you've entered the room. Thanks for joining us. Q team has joined us as well. And let's see, Kevin said, I want to see the civilization that is there. Oh, Q team said, I want to know what's under the ice in Antarctica. Well, don't we all? And Kevin said he wants to see the civilization that's there. Fawn said there's something on ice, but no one knows what that secret is yet. But Quinn J said they sure can destroy, though. And well, see, that's why I said that. And yes, I do. I wrote it down because I do want to have this conversation, because I'm really feeling into. I've said before, those that are the puppets that are, for a lot of us who think the ubiquitous they that are still here and trying like all get out to run the show right into the ground. I have this feeling they are humans just like us. They just were sold a completely different bill of goods. And this is, so I know that that's a conversation for another time. But when
they're programmed and conditioned just as well.
Yes,
and they're taught total dependence, just like we have been.
Absolutely. That's why I say it's not them that I think that can't create, but they don't know. First of all, they just like us, they were sold that the only way they can create is by doing this step first, and then you got to kill the children, and then you got to eat them, and then you got to drink their blood, and then you got to, just like you got to go to church, and then you got to do this, and then you got to do that. It's all the same shit.
Yes, in every system,
I'm sorry.
Every sector.
Right. That's why I'm saying.
Hence the wash and repeat.
Exactly.
Right? It's formulaic. And so a lot of people saying, well, these false flags are happening, they're getting noticed so fast. Yes, because it's wash and repeat, because that's the thing. And the part of it is arrogance to think, well, it's worked all this time, why is it not? And they are human, but they're also again, because of it's lineage wise, that you've heard of intermarrying in brother and sister, and yes, but it's also that innate ability of that creator beingness, of that creatorship, of that being able to just pluck it from thin air, the no thingness, and go with it. They don't have that same thing because it's channeled, because they're, as Fauna said, that they're good at, yes, they're good at destruction. They're good at that because that's their creative force. And they don't have, most are psychopaths, and a whole other host of propensities that go with that. Right. And so there is no, people say, well, that's horrible or mean or whatever, but you're trying to ascribe to them something they do not have. They simply are not capable of that. That doesn't mean, that doesn't give them a pass. I'm not saying that at all. And whoever just said that,
I realize that's why I said
that. But you know what I'm saying is, so it's not in their realm and capacity to do that. And so, yes, if what they're doing is a wash and repeat, right? And it is of pressure, it is of destruction, it is of cruelty, it is of killing, whatever it is, that they can keep doing it because nothing enters into their thing. Now, and this is why it's a whole other conversation. Now, some have gotten through and gone through those different things, and they've made everybody's choosing, and so they've made different choices, and it may be tiny infinitesimal increments, and some may say, well, that was a bloody choice, and that's a bloody choice, but they're different because it's going to expand.
Well, I want to say this, and then we'll move on, because this is a different subject, and I'm sorry I brought it up. But Fawn said, how could anyone be so programmed that they do not show empathy for life and happiness of another being? And I'll tell you how. I'll tell you exactly how, because this is exactly what goes to my point in regards to the ubiquitous they, and why compassion is the order of the day.
Yes.
And here's the reason why.
It's the road through. It is the most essential tool.
But here's for me an answer specifically to your question. Think for a moment. I know it's tough because this did not happen to any of us, perhaps. But think for just a moment that from the moment of birth, from conception, the programming and conditioning of no empathy began, of torturous abuse was, because make no mistake, those families are treated quite differently than you and I. The idea of torture and abuse begins immediately.
Yeah.
You get it done to you, and the only way out of it is for you to begin doing it to others. And that is the way those children in those families are raised.
Yes, and that's what I talked about, where it's choosing, it's making a different choice. And so even if it's a bloody awful thing, I'm just going to use it as a thing, right? And the choice is still a bloody awful thing, but just a soupçon less. That's a choice, and that's a choice for expansion, and that's a choice for changing that, and that's a choice. And so not only in this particular time lifetime, but on all these times, and I got news for you. Everybody who's here and who's unwinding and unbinding this, and who's is playing leading roles to do this, which is, hey, everybody who's listening to this conversation right this minute, has been in the place where we were doing bloody awful stuff. You know, it may have been eons ago, but we kept choosing and choosing, and we went forth to no source, and we expanded and all that. We turned around and came back. And someone said, well, that's awful. I wouldn't do that. How do you think we have the capacity to bring it down? That we have the steadfastness and the understanding and the tenacity and the knowing and the being able to read the waters of what the moves will be and how to thwart them and how to gut through of that if we hadn't done it and chose differently from it. That's what the whole idea of ascension is and moving forward is. That's why you can't sit on the fence anymore. You can't wait to see, hey, it'd be kind of cool to see how it all turns out. Because, you know, and you can do that, and multi-millennia later, you can get yourself to a point where for you and beings that were around you who made the same kind of choice can come to that point where whatever planet, whatever realm, whatever it is that you're on, can do the same thing.
Well, that's what I said. That's one of the many reasons I call myself a dark worker. I'm pretty damn sure I had a hand in setting some of this crap up. So I'm here to let's take it down now. So I'll own that. Was there anything else on those? And I apologize for derailing this.
I forgot where we were.
We're on.
You dragged me over to that other story.
We're on paragraph 39. Well, because I had to. I just have to. I have to go where the mood goes. You guys know that.
Yeah.
So
That's why we love you.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad. Believe you me. Okay, so he was an architect, an anarchist. I almost said an anarchist. Well, in some degrees, maybe he was actually.
Where are you? Oh, okay, I see it. 39. Okay.
Number 39. I wanted to say anarchist instead of architect, but okay. Actually, I think he was, to be honest with you. An inventor, a diplomat, a scholar, the founder of one of the world's great universities, and an ardent defender of liberty. Americans will forever admire the author of American Freedom, Thomas Jefferson, and he too will never be abandoned by us. Anything on that one? I know he wrote something that every American ought to know, and that is something in regards to if you suspect tyranny, it's time to rise up. So there's that. I remember, I don't know the exact quote, but.
Were the two quotes that you had, Lisa, wasn't this around the area where you prompted the search for those?
No, it was Booker T.
Okay.
And that's in the next speech.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll stay on this conversation.
Okay.
We'll go with it.
We'll get to it. It's in the queue.
Okay, so.
It's a big queue, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Okay, so Abraham Lincoln, the savior of our union, was a self-taught country lawyer who grew up in a log cabin on the American frontier. Anything in that one?
Only again, and you know, it's really, I'm being nudged how important this is to keep saying that he's laying the multi-dimensional thread storyline for what's unfolding, and I've got to figure out a way to just get my videos to play right on this screen because I think they were pretty damn cool. But in doing that, and in playing, in each individual playing with, feeling into, using your own sensory array to bring up a video, your own, bring up a roadmap, bring up a visual construct of what I'm talking about laying down the multidimensional thread, the storyline. You're actually building a structure. You're building a bridge from this false contract that's falling down, being unwound and unbound. And the bridge is how everybody can walk across from their unconsciousness, constricted state to their conscious expansive state and to the ascension walking through, because they can put those pieces together. They don't have to dwell on each in particular thing, because it creates a cohesive energetic frequency landscape that they can walk through. So it may be, raped and pillaged type thing in the middle, but they can see the light. They can see the promised land. They can see and feel it, and its structure is all there for it. So this multidimensional bridge, multidimensional layer of the storyline he's putting through. So yes, he's telling the story from, historically accurate back then to now, because many people don't even know that. But that's why I keep getting into, because if you can play with and entertain that thing, then as you see a tweet or you read something or you experience something from within that comes up within you, and you have that framework, that sensory array framework there, you're adding to that. You are the bridge builder.
Yeah, my analogy is puzzle piece collecting, and that's the same exact thing. With every puzzle piece that seems to fall into place, it actually is creating an etheric structure for all. That's the way I feel about it. Okay, so the first Republican president, he rose to high office from obscurity based on a force and clarity of his anti-slavery convictions. Very, very strong convictions. Anything on that one?
The only thing I would say again is that it goes to the frequency, the energy, and what's in you. So the choosing, the standing up, the stand the line, that you are incredibly magnificent and more powerful than you can possibly imagine in your wildest imaginings. And the little the little thoughts or nudges that may come through in you to be someone to save the world or ride in and help, set things right, or whatever it is, whatever kind of linear-esque thing that might have a kind of twist on that, that's a truth within you. That's why you're here. That's what you're capable of doing. And so if you get on that and ride that and feel through it, it helps. Someone said in the one of the three things we were doing around the solstice, that the programming was difficult to bypass, or I'm not, that brave to stand in it. But every moment that you choose for you, what is that new plateau, that new frontier, that new standing in line for you, you embolden you support you, and you change it in the consciousness for everyone else. So for the other yous who felt the way that being had just described themselves, but maybe they feel less than that, right? So that's why, because we're all one, and we're each a singularity, and it's an inside job. And so each day that we add to the creation of how the new flow unfolds.
Well, I'll tell you from my own perspective what you just said, because you guys know when I first started hanging out with the two of you and having these conversations,
you went, huh?
Well, the propensity to think that we are not what we actually are is because of the programming and the conditioning. And as you were saying that, BZ, what you just now said in regards to that, one of the reasons that I say so often and so much and all the time about how I am only moving towards that which makes my heart sing. I'm going to stand in what brings me joy. And that is going to be different for each unique singularity of the all. And it's your purpose. It's your whole reason for being here. It is in and of itself. By standing in that is exactly what you just spoke to, in my view.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, and it helps unbind and unwind everything all at the same time.
And that's even more. That is a whole other conversation that'd be great fun to play with now because it's shifted again. But
yeah, I'm aware. Okay, so he signed the law that built the Transcontinental Railroad. He signed the Homestead Act, given to some incredible scholars as simply defined ordinary citizens free land to settle anywhere in the American West. And he led the country through the darkest hours of American history, giving every ounce of strength that he had to ensure that government of the people, by the people, and for the people did not perish from this earth.
one thing I just want to mention. Oh, go ahead.
He's talking about himself there.
I was just, yeah.
I feel that way as well. I actually do.
Well, this whole thing here of Thomas Jefferson, you know, the first time I heard it, I was just like, oh, wow, I didn't even realize all that stuff. I, on the other hand, do not remember a lot of high school history. And so going over it with you ladies here and just seeing the progression of it, first of all, he was an outstanding example of how to be sovereign, right? He taught himself, he was self-taught, he trusted himself, and he followed his nudges as far as they would go. And he understood history, like he looked back at what had happened, and he vowed to be the change that he was looking for in the world. And then he elicited the help of others by showing them what he knew. And to me, all of that, even though it's all about, really, it was all about him and his path, he's a great leader for just standing and being his own authority.
Yes.
And so each and every one of us have that opportunity right now to do the same. I don't know. I just think this is so beautiful. Can hardly stand it.
Well, yeah, because what we're seeing is the warp and the weave of our whole planet, our whole, you know, this country and our existence, and then the planet, and each being, and how we're connected multidimensionally through every galaxy, every, you know, realm, and this is the point, you know, the light, the point of focus, where the main stage is, and it's playing out, and it affects every counterpart, every connected to each player on the stage. The other thing I wanted to say, which goes on to your point too, Lisa, is because it does sound like he's talking about him, and there, for what I'm seeing and sensing, is that there's, again, more of the reveal, more, and that's part of the laying of the storyline, of going to the bigger picture. So the multidimensional self, because he doesn't say, he keeps saying from this earth. So he's setting the earth as a body, not like it's just, hey, it's the only planet around, right? And these kinds, that there's a civilization, a culture, and all the things that have gone through these gyrations of, you know, the struggle here, just one of many.
Well,
because they're connected.
The minute you called out this earth, I actually saw, oh, wait a minute, because, you know, I think there's multiple earths. So
how many are there?
Right? Okay, so moving on. He served as Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Armed Forces during our bloodiest war, the struggle that saved our Union and extinguished the evil of slavery. Over 600,000 died in that war. More than 20,000 were killed or wounded in a single day at Antietam. Antietam, thank you. Well, it's spelled weird. At Gettysburg 157 years ago. The Union bravely withstood an assault of nearly 15,000 men and threw back Pickett's charge. Anything on that one? Nope. Okay.
No, just that the battle he's talking about is called Bloody Lane.
Ah, okay. Lincoln won the Civil War. He issued the Emancipation Proclamation. He led the passage of the 13th Amendment, abolishing slavery for all time. Now, I do want to bring up something, oh, wait a minute. And ultimately, his determination to preserve our nation and our union cost him his life. For as long as we live, Americans will uphold and revere the immortal memory of President Abraham Lincoln. So I do have not a question, but an observation in regards to, again, those who would tear down the monuments trying to erase history. You know, supposedly they were doing it in regards to
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter. But wait a minute.
Well, you see, that's
that
the
work?
rub about the whole thing.
Yeah, so, okay. Anyway, that was all I had on that one. Anybody else?
Nope.
Theodore Roosevelt exemplified the unbridled confidence of our national culture and identity. He saw the towering grandeur of America's mission in the world, and he pursued it with overwhelming energy and zeal. Anybody got anything on that?
The only thing, again, I would say is that it's, you know, Roosevelt is a larger than life character. You can read different stories that he's done and adventures he was on, and you know, he's a great horseman and those kinds of things. And so it's again speaking. He's telling a historically accurate storyline, but he's also, you know, because to what he gets a little bit, he's actually is what St. Crispin's speech here going on, because he's rallying the troops. You're the troops. We're the troops. So he's letting you stand in, right? He's letting you conjure in your mind's eye these beings that are on why they're there at Mount Rushmore and on the thing, and what's going on in the struggle and the perseverance, and coming from just, they didn't have to be, you know, already a great warrior. They didn't have this. It is the every being, because every being matters. Right. And so because what's a common struggle in awakening, the common struggle in star seeds and all that kind of thing, whatever you're going to give them different monikers, but is, well, who am I, or I don't know anything, or I'm not certain what I'm supposed to do, or any of that kind of thing. Do it anyways, because you're you, and that is such a powerful shining light right there. That's essential. So he's kind of laying all that out here again, you know, and isn't it St. Crispin's Day speech? It's he's kind of rallying, because what he's going to get to pretty soon, you know. And
yeah, you'd have to educate me on what the St. Crispin thing is first, BZ, because I ain't got a clue. Never heard of it. Sorry. What is that?
Well, we're going. I'll look it up, but I'm
Okay.
pretty sure that's what it's called.
Oh, well.
So this is starting to sound like a pep rally.
I know. Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Well,
all excited
that's why I said
for our part.
hence the decode. We are the troops. You're right about that.
Yeah.
So we're waiting for you to look
No, keep going.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Well, the next one is, as a lieutenant colonel during the Spanish-American War, he led the famous, I was going to say infamous, but okay, famous Rough Riders to defeat the enemy at San Juan Hill. He cleaned up corruption as police commissioner of New York City, then served as the governor of New York, vice president, and at 42 years old became the youngest ever president of the United States. Anything?
Nope.
Okay. Lisa? No? He sent our great new naval fleet around the globe to announce America's arrival as a world power. He gave us many of our national parks, including the Grand Canyon. Okay, so something just came in for me on that, but that's an entirely different conversation too. He saw the construction of the awe-inspiring Panama Canal, and he is the only person ever awarded both the Nobel Peace Prize and the Congressional Medal of Honor. He was American freedom personified in full. The American people will never relinquish the bold, beautiful, and untamed spirit of Theodore Roosevelt. I really don't have anything at all on Roosevelt, other than that ding I got about
Yeah. No, it's just more of the same, and it's about Roosevelt for Roosevelt and his contribution in this timeline to where we are now, and it's that, you know, the bold, beautiful, untamed spirit is a it's part within each one of us. It's the same kind of thing. There are no, you're not small. There are no small players. There's no small bit parts. They're all essential, and the time is now.
Yeah. So no movement that seeks to dismantle these treasured American legacies can possibly have no movement that seeks to dismantle these treasured American legacies can possibly have a love of America at its heart. Can't have it. No person who remains quiet at the destruction of this resplendent heritage can possibly lead us to a better future. Well, for me, that just speaks to, again, how unfortunate it is that those who are blindly following something that they really haven't apparently felt into, or have just simply bought into the propaganda that they've been fed. I mean, we've all been fed propaganda and untruths and programming and conditioning. So it's not that I'm sitting here in judgment of any of these folks. I'm just saying that I agree with him, but it's not, I don't feel he's speaking to those that are actually doing the actions. In this, for me, he's speaking to the ones who know what they're doing, who are paying these people, ordering these people, whatever the hell is taking place, convincing these people incorrectly, that sort of thing, with that twist, that co-option of a thing.
Yep. And you know, right now there's a lot of politicians who are doing just that. They're turning a blind eye to it. And, you know, I don't think anybody is looking for those kind of people to lead us into into a whole new world, because that is just more of the same.
Yeah, there's a lot of that on both sides. This, for me, what I see, okay, so what I've been feeling into for myself is I'm much more interested in something that's all inclusive of everything, leaving nothing out, and no room for division. No, right. You're wrong and you're right, because that we all got to get over that. We really do, because that is another portion of that programmed, conditioned stuff. That if it's wrong over here, that means it's right over here, and vice versa. In other words, something cannot be right over here and right over here. It can't be that way, because we're also programmed in the duality of what this is, what it has been.
Right.
Is a duality: good, bad, left, right, wrong, right. And the truth of the matter is that's not how any of this actually works.
No, it's all multidimensional, and you know, 3D is just part of the linear, is just part of it. What this 48 speaks to me is it's again, he's talking multidimensional. He's calling, yes, the statues and all that kind of stuff, but he's calling the whole constriction or not of your heart. of the brain, of the thinking, of the linear mind being in service to the heart or leading you blindly because you do not have your sensory ray open because your heart is closed tight and you cannot feel, to something that, I mean, he said it in this document already many times. They have no idea what they're doing, and that's actually their each being is re-upping, reinforcing the programming within them by that choice to keep doing it because they've locked it down tighter within themselves.
Well, that's why I like what he said there about no person who remains quiet at the destruction of this resplendent heritage can possibly lead us to a better future.
And he's not just talking about the statues there. He's talking about the mask. He's talking about all these kinds of things. If you're, the quotes that we've all heard and found ourselves about, if you're willing to give up sacrifice some liberties now for a feeling of security now, you deserve neither.
Yep.
The security or the freedom.
That was
and you're not on board waking up and standing in your own beingness enough to even know what they are or be ready to live an existence that has those right this moment.
Well, I want to go to some of the comments from our crew here too, because Fawn said, well, thanks for joining us, Sam and Karen. I'm glad you guys were able to join us. Christiane, welcome. Fawn said, is Trump telling stories to really look into and find out what happened? World power is not a good thing. I got a feeling that's part of what BZ is speaking to here, that this is what this is doing.
Yes.
That I think we've all been feeling there's something coming, and we all know there's lots going to come out, and there are way more than just famous people that have been channeling and saying that things are coming. And I mean, Lisa herself has been getting guidance too, that, even those of us who think we know a thing are gonna be thrown when some of this stuff starts coming out. So just hang on to your hat, because that's a real thing.
Well, and the rest of you too would be good.
Well, that's true. She went on to say, have we been conditioned through our history? Is it really fact? Well, maybe,
right.
Maybe not. That's true. That is very true.
Well, but part of it is that, again, it's a story, and it's a narrative that is familiar with a large
right.
segment and not. And so you pick up, just like with the Republicans and Democrats, there's a thought line of it. So you have to, because there's so much, the pile of stuff that is not here known by many is humongous, right? So you've got to start, like from a marketing thing, you've got to start with where there's familiarity, like when we do with the whole new financial system and everything else. You start with a mechanism that's familiar and trusting because you've used it before, and then you can jump as you get into that. Then you can jump right next to the fantastical and that seamless connection, or you might do it for a while to build your thing. It's the same. That same thread is being carried, needs to be carried through everything. Many people can jump right beyond it, right? And many people just hear the story.
For me, in answer to Fawn's question, I tend to keep, I don't hold things so tightly and cling to it and say, this is fact and nobody can tell me any different, because just the minute I do that, I'm in trouble because I'm shown something different. And so that's why you guys who have followed me a while have heard me say that I just remain open. I collect puzzle pieces, and sometimes I don't understand what it is I'm seeing, and maybe I don't even resonate with it, and maybe I don't care to see it. and I would rather not think about it or whatever, but I still keep it over here to the side because you're right. I don't know for a fact what's true and what's not. I do know that history is written by the winners. It's almost always written by the winners of whatever the thing is. And that is why part of me is concerned when we start going willy-nilly, tearing down shit and trying to change what little bit of history we do have, and, you know, that we have a hold of, when I can clearly see a movement to rewrite or change or discount what we think we know about history.
Yeah, and I think
It's
too,
a red flag.
I think it's constructive too to build the picture, you know, whatever the history is, by using it as a metaphor. So it's a story, right? And then a metaphor, and it helps to posit a focus and a direction one may take of expansion or constriction, and then move through it. And you can see it because it's tangible. There's this, you know, big statue that, and the other thing is that, which I think hasn't been said, if at all, certainly not nearly enough, is that the creativity and the beautiful skill and the breath of source, the inspiration that went in of the artist who built these things and what it meant. And, you know, and there was a tweet, you know, showing, I guess he was a guide for the monuments, some of the statues, and it was a black man, and he's getting up, these people are Black Lives Matter and tear it down, all this kind of stuff, and he's like, stop, you don't even know the history of this. This was paid for by people who were slaves and were freed, and it meant that much to them that they took what little money they had together, because they just finally started being able to make any, right, and keep it.
Yeah.
To have this, to mark this for them. It was a marking of going over the threshold and changing everything. So, you know, little tiny bits like that, the snippets, they're a metaphor to help guide people to what? To go into your heart, to feel and experience what's actually going on, instead of just taking the mental storyline, the mental groove, and not sailing your own ship, not minding and paying attention to and being cognizant of your own energy frequency, but instead going, oh, I'm gonna go this way because this is where everybody else is going, and I'm being herded through.
Right, exactly. Okay, so we're ready to go on to the next. The radical ideology attacking our country advances under the banner of social justice. Yeah, I got a real issue with social justice at any rate. But in truth, it would demolish both justice and society. It would transform justice into an instrument of division and vengeance, and it would turn our free and inclusive society into a place of repression, domination, and exclusion. And I really feel like I said, social justice has really bothered me for quite some time. And that is because there's a huge twist. It's a bait and switch kind of thing going on there. And I really feel like this is the place, Lisa, for that quote that you found in regards to.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I really feel like that right here is because it, under the guise of social justice, is what Black Lives Matter is.
Right. And Lisa's gonna bring her quote to go this, but it's also, again, one of those things where he's switching tenses. So he's so, you know, that it's doing this, it's gonna happen. It's already happened, and we're really ensconced, and it's been happening, you know, for eons. So Lisa's got this great quote.
Yeah. I got that same thing, is that he's describing here. I mean, if you really allow yourself to open up and hear the words, you'll know that we've already been living under that for some time. It's not something
Centuries.
that could happen.
Yeah,
It's
centuries.
something that is happening.
Eons, yep.
Okay, so this is actually a tweet. So I'm reading what somebody tweeted. A meme here, it's a picture of Booker T. Washington, and it has him listed as a Republican. I did not know that, so that was interesting to me. And then this is a quote from him, and it says, "There is a class of colored people who make a business of keeping the troubles, the wrongs, and the hardships of the Negro race before the public. Having learned that they are able to make a living out of their troubles, they have grown into the settled habit of advertising their wrongs, partly because they want sympathy and partly because it pays. Some of these people do not want the Negro to lose his grievances because they do not want to lose their jobs."
Al Sharpton and
Right?
Well, that's exactly correct. All those kind of folks that are, well, really in one way or another, like I said, it's under the guise of social justice.
Right.
So on the surface, if you're only skimming the surface, it sounds like a good and loving thing, but it actually does nothing for anyone, most especially those it purports to assist.
Yeah, the disenfranchised.
It does not.
You know, and a common thing is, you know, those old white men. Well, Al Sharpton is about the oldest, whitest man there is that has to do with this kind of thing, right? And Jesse Jackson and the rest of them, because look, they always seem to show up, and they're calling, and they have very wealthy. I mean, Sharpton's got his own plane, all this kind of stuff, because it's a business. It's a thriving mechanism to have great wealth on the backs of the people they purport to, and anyone else connected to them as well. It's a snow job. It's just a snow job.
Thank you, Christiane. Christiane was sharing with Lori that, because Lori wanted to know who that was from. It's a quote attributable to Booker T. Washington. And I have actually heard other leaders, and I wish I could remember his name. I saw it just recently. I thought those were his words, but no, apparently he was quoting Booker T, because I've heard that exact quote before from someone else who was actually, I think it was a debate that was going on between two Black folks. I'm not quite sure. I caught barely a snippet of it. And I heard that and I thought, oh, wow, this cat is right on the money. But, you know, so I had no idea that it was Booker T.
Lisa, you might want to read, unless you want to save it for another time, you might want to read that other one.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that because I think that that really is this is a good time to illustrate that. First of all, it's been going on for eons, and second of all, it's all a money making thing for those who control thing under the guise of something else.
Yep. Well, so there were two memes attached to this tweet, and this was the second one. And this is a quote from Thomas Sowell, Sowell. And he says, "More whites were brought as slaves to North Africa than blacks brought as slaves to the United States, or to the 13 colonies from which it was formed. White slaves were still being bought and sold in the Ottoman Empire, decades after the blacks were freed in the United States." Well, that was news to me. I had no idea that trade went this way.
Well, it did, but a lot of I'll be honest with you, a lot of people don't bring that up because of the absolute vitriol.
Because it doesn't fit the L sharp narrative,
No,
and you can't
right.
make money from it.
No, that's right. There's nothing about any of that that has to do with any kind of, and then folks just want to scream white privilege all over the place. So there's a lot there's an awful lot. It's no race or color or creed has been left out of the abuse that has gone on this planet.
Right, and but people are missing completely, thinking that slavery it has not. Slavery is ongoing, and every single being on this planet is enslaved with the slavery that's above, the top of the below the fold is the financial slavery system. It's affected every single being, and it's ongoing, rampant. It's coming to an end, but
no, you're absolutely right. So when we think about all of that, needless to should any of us forget, we're still slaves. So
yes.
Everyone, and I mean,
we're complicit in that.
Well, listen, before I actually had any sort of awakening from corruption or spirituality or any of that sort of thing, I told the two of you before in a conversation, I went to a customer service seminar where the guy that was conducting it explained that everyone is wearing what he called golden handcuffs.
Yes.
Yeah. And I apparently that old fella was woke, and I didn't even know it because I didn't know what the hell he meant at that point. But I do now.
But it landed, but it was one of those things that landed a long time ago, and it helped click little things when there were, now you had receptors in you that would attract a puzzle piece here and there because it landed. You didn't need to unfold that whole piece at the time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and lest anyone think they are not a slave right now, talk to me about, I'm sorry, you hate your job and you don't want to do it, but you don't understand. Okay, so yeah. Okay.
All right, 50.
They want to silence us, but we will not be silenced.
Yeah, so for me, that's he punches up like I said, it's one of those things where the decibel goes way up when he says that, and this is a call to action. This is it's a challenge. It's challenging. So it's a statement, right? And it's also as a bully pulpit, but it's a call to action and a challenge to rise to the occasion. So to rise within you in the truth of who you are and stand all in.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And without actually saying it, I'll tell you what I just felt all over that. If you are in a state where there's some sort of silly ass mandate for a mask and you don't want to wear one, this is it. They want to silence you, but we will not be silenced. And again, I'll point to the fact that we're going to put that deprivation of rights under color of law really easily for everyone. And I say, be not silenced.
Yeah, and then, like I said, it's interesting that it's the 50th paragraph, 50 states, and it simply cannot be stated enough or passionately enough or held with true fierceness and conviction, and that velvet wrapped titanium, that this is the moment. This is not something to see how it works out, or yeah, that's too bad, or geez, this is a pain in the ass, these people are nuts, but I guess I have to do it for whatever, you don't understand it. This is the rest of your existence. This is the change mark of the expansion that's going on. This has far greater ramifications. Make no mistake about it. in the whole totality of your soul as an entity as it goes forth from here. It's not just a couple months with a dry summer and people have gone whack shit crazy that run your state and they want to annoy you. It's way beyond that.
Well, and Karen Fine is pointing out that St. Augustine City is being sued for that by a Republican state representative. And she said for that exact mandate. So same in North Carolina, darling. The Republican lieutenant governor is going to be bringing a suit against the Democratic governor. And because it's time. It is
time, and you'll see, and Corey Diggs is working on it. As soon as I get a notification or I keep checking on her site that she's got it finished, I'll post it. But she's putting together a compendium, a resource list of lawyers and firms, and some of them are actually members of the Congress who are stepping forward and saying, I'll represent you for free.
Yeah. I've been seeing it all over Twitter.
And it's all
really exciting.
It's in every state, it's in every focus of whatever they're, being a lawyer, whatever it is. And there are class action lawsuits popping all over the place. It could be
I knew there would be
as well. But what I'm saying is, so remember we had yesterday with the page turn, the flip, and with the solstice and the three things, that portal we stepped through, it's full on head rush. And so by not maybe look at the other, by saying, well, this is a drag or whatever, or what you don't understand, you're actually making a choice. You are bifurcating your soul's choice and the trajectory which you're going on right now, which will be a choice because it's your free will and you're the expert for you and only you are the expert for you. Nobody else is. And be fierce about that, hence the mask and all that kind of stuff. But we'll have unfoldments for you that come from that for millennia to come. It's not just any choice. It's not just any, inconvenience. It's not just any deprivation of rights. It's the source of all of them right this moment.
So then the audience chants USA, USA, and an audience member yells, "We love you." Then the president says, thank you very much, thank you very much. We will state the truth in full, without apology. We declare that the United States of America is the most just and exceptional nation ever to exist on earth. And although, again, there's this thing about American exceptionalism. It's not because I have in the past taken issue with the fact that we've gone around this planet acting like the police for everything, every time there's some sort of anything. And that has really, in the past, it speaks to that whole American exceptionalism. Well, we know what's right for everybody in the whole goddamn world, and we're going to go out there and tell you about it. That kind of sounds like people trying to red pill people, don't it?
Yes.
Well, except that the frequency of both of those things are different, because one is the whole global thing masquerading as, and what he's referring to here, the way I feel it, see it, sense it, and watched it on his face, and he toned it, is he's talking about just what I talked about a minute ago, about the powerful being that you are, the kick-ass creator being. He's just using the metaphor of the United States because it's, hey, it's a whole country full of kick-ass creator beings.
No, I'm in agreement with you, but I had to point that out because prior to this administration, that is the frequency, the whole thing with American exceptionalism has been the big bully on the playground that's going to come and beat everybody into submission kind of thing, whether you like it or not. Oh, hold still while I save you just a second, while we kill everybody in your city.
So think of that right now. So you're talking about the twist that there's, okay?
Right.
So you're planning this. You've got this. You have to have fail safes, right? You've got that shielding that I've talked about for years now. That's the non-interrupt shielding on your programming, and if they're waking up, things come in to interrupt it. So you've got one thing they may have to mimic, but they have progeny long game that they play. So it's a long con, and it's generations worth long. So it's multi, it's your great progeny worth of long game, long con.
Right.
Okay. And so in that, they have these fail safes, right, that they put in. So for this very moment is what you're talking about, American exceptionalism, that's a fail-safe that was engendered fiercely in a lot of people, right?
Yes.
For this very moment.
Right. So everybody would step up and say, yeah, that's more of that American exception.
That's right. It's that twist to get that the jackals can fall on you and keep you in line. It's a set it and forget it. Hey, you got them so well trained, they just eat each other, slice each other right up there, and no problem.
Well,
there are a number of things that are like that are set eons ago for this very moment. Why? Because they do know how the woo-woo works. They do know how the fantastical works. They do know how to read into the future and jump all those timelines, and they use it as part of their power because they know that they're kick-ass creator beings as well.
You're exactly correct. That's why.
No illusion about that. They know that.
Personally, I've felt into the whole thing with the conspiracy theories and things like that too. It was brilliant the way some of that was perpetrated too.
Yes.
In that, in some cases, yes, it woke some up, but also because we see it all over the place. There's a whole shit ton of people who think that, Trump's got everybody fooled and he's part of the new world order because we're marching lockstep into tyranny and he's not doing anything about it except for, I don't know, showing everybody exactly what's going on.
And the person, so the persons, people, all of them that have that same kind of thing, or may hear someone who's rallying that cry and they go, yeah, but they just do it in their armchair behind their computer screen and don't say too loud because they don't want to have that much conviction that they say too loud, right? Because that would take a lot of work. But that's one of those things I'm talking about not saying, running the game or seeing how it works out or waiting to choose your sides or anything, because you're not on the side of you. What in that has that being done for themselves and taking a stand for themselves in that moment. And anytime that you look at that or feel yourself kind of swaying with that, then that's a question to look for yourself. What do I stand for? What do I have a knowing of? And how am I choosing to do that? Because I'm the expert for me. So, gosh darn it, I'm the expert for me. Wait a minute, I'm the expert for me. I got to figure this out.
Right, exactly. So, was there anything else on that one? Nope. We are proud of the fact that our country was founded on Judeo-Christian principles, and we understand that these values have dramatically advanced the cause of peace and justice throughout the world. Well, okay.
Again, being thrown out of Sunday school and all that kind of stuff. The only thing that came to mind for me is, again, it's one of those things. I hear it, read it, and stand into that statement. It's the Christ consciousness. which
Well,
isn't
that's the
about,
only thing that saves me on that one. So
yeah,
yeah.
which isn't about religion. It isn't about any of that. It's about the frequency of the source of all that is, and that is you.
Yeah.
So
Well,
there,
that is,
I see it as there is no division in that statement. There is no, because actually, ironically, that's where there's an awful lot of segregation and division and, better than or holier than thou and all those kinds of things in there. And if were it not for that Christ consciousness, that's the only thing that's going to pull all of that through that.
well, yeah, that is true. Okay, so we know that the American family is the bedrock of American life, which is another thing that has to do for me with that whole social justice thing, how it's been destroyed.
Right.
Right. We recognize the solemn right of and moral duty of every nation to secure its borders, and we are building the wall.
And so this is another one, the wall thing and secure its borders, all that kind of stuff, that a lot of light workers, so to say, the term that, they don't understand, or it's confusing because we're all one, except that it has to do with a frequency thing. It has to do with your own singularity and your own sovereignty, and so that you cannot recognize that and stand into that and totally embrace that if you don't understand that you are an entity and a magnificent one in and of yourself already. And then once you realize that, then you can move forward and be all one, right? But the singularity, because source didn't go forth and no source, and we're all exactly the same, right?
Right. Well, that's why I say for me, in regards to the wall, that is such a multidimensional topic, subject, and everything for me, because first of all, part of my expansion of consciousness has been to learn how to erect boundaries for myself. That speaks to a wall, to be firm in those boundaries for myself. And on the 3D level, this wall is not, it is metaphor, and it is also very real in that it has less to do, in my view, it has less to do with keeping folks out that want to come here than it does to making sure that trafficking is not able to be done, because that is how that's gone on.
And it's all about a multidimensional wall. So the trafficking on multidimensional levels and layers, the trafficking on different realms and dimensions. Make no mistake about the trafficking. You're going to see this very clearly here. It's not just in DC, or there was a story in with Germany, and they had this long thing, and it's off planet. And there are supply, you used to have the spice route, and you got all that kind of stuff, and it's different commodities within the trafficking. It's different actual supply chains, and it's different products, that are different parts of the human being.
Well, that's what I said. For me, the wall is all about, and Karen just said it too. She said, "Isn't the wall about boundaries?" And I feel like it is. Yes.
Yeah.
Dawn went on to say that I'm not liking the wall. If you watch the Hunger Games, they put a wall up to keep people in. A wall makes me think prison. Okay, but good walls make good neighbors too, because that's why I said for me, it's all about boundaries.
Yeah.
There's a good neighbor will come and knock on your door and say, "Hey, you want to play? I want to play. You want to come out and play?" And give you a choice.
And a good wall is starting with the out there doesn't get out there until we put it out there. It's an inside job. So in having that, valuing ourselves and having an open heart and having that expanded consciousness and awareness to realize that we are this powerful entity, this powerful being. And okay, let's face it, we are that, and we've been wielding that power in really irresponsible, unconscious, infringing, and kind of just, don't want to use the word I want to say, which is pissing that power all over everybody. And it would be really helpful if we got some boundaries and quit doing that from us going out there, right? So the out there is the wall, because that's an actual thing. It's stopping actual things on all multidimensional levels, right? And realms of a whole bunch of different things.
Right.
It's also a metaphor for doing that. And as soon as, that's the beauty of it, as soon as you do that, as soon as you come from that place and come from realizing that your structure, right, your cohesive structure, and you claim it and you own it and you know it, that's the wall that you're building around that. And that lets you then realize that, wow, I am connected to all of this, and yet I still have this part that I directly control. It's not the interesting thing is that as you step through it, it's not a limiting thing. It's not a more of a divisive duality or a boundary structure. It actually, the very essence of the boundary, energetic frequency, lets you actually come into a whole and more. Like each cell has its own cell structure, its own boundary, the boundary of the cell, and that's how they work together. And that's part of how they connect their whole infrastructure that lets your body perform millions and millions of things in every minute, second, whatever it is. Probably numbers are way too low to do all sorts of things, and you don't even have to think about it,
Right.
because it's that cohesive structure.
Was there anything on that one for you, Lisa?
Well, you both kept pulling it right out of my head. I agree mostly with that boundary issue, and boundaries aren't really in place for the other. It's for the self, and we are putting the boundary there. I'm talking about the wall in this case, is because we have decided we want to have a certain, lifestyle, if you will. It's, for me, I see the wall as the same as why I lock my doors in the evening before I go to sleep. Not because no one is allowed to enter here. It's because I decide who enters here and when and how and all of that. And so it's really an empowerment, not a disempowerment for me to have boundaries. I'm extremely disempowered when I don't have any boundaries in place, because now anybody with an agenda is allowed to come and go and do with me what they will. And to me, that's very disempowering. I would like to control how my life looks and what it feels like. And so I'm responsible for creating those boundaries. I certainly don't expect everybody else to respect my boundary of my front door if I leave it wide open.
Well, if you don't respect your own boundaries yourself as well, and the metaphor that you gave of, locking your doors at night so that someone doesn't come in, well, in that metaphor, it actually was so someone doesn't take something out, which is
right.
One of the linear things that the wall is doing. Is it's because the wall doesn't, I got news for you, it's not just 200 to 300 feet high, as in, off the linear plane of Mother Earth, and it goes way down as well, because it's thwarting the tunnels that are underneath. So it's, and it also has, they just kind of say it, they cue it as it's, and I don't mean cue himself, although maybe he has too, but that it's complicated. It's a very sophisticated wall, has all sorts of things. Yeah, you bet, because it's not just on the 3D realm. It is actually thwarting different transfers in the frequency and molecular structure and realm of which beings can come forth and transport things and cross that barrier. It's not just this, steel wall that's you can see through, and it's way beyond that. It's a multidimensional wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I see how you're feeling about it, Fawn. Fawn said a wall takes your free will to go anywhere on the planet you want to go. And I don't agree with that. We'll have to agree to disagree on that.
Well, there's gates.
Yeah, there are gates, but also too, for me, I mean, there are all sorts of reasons for me why a wall is a good thing. I mean, there's we're not saying you must never enter and you must never leave. That's what, no. That is kind of the way some would have it, portrayed. But that's not at all what this is about. And I do see sense and feel it for myself on a very multidimensional level, but it always has to do in every one of those levels for me with boundaries, empowered boundaries.
Yeah,
And
as the consciousness expands, the boundaries can still stay there because they're just part of the innateness within you, and it actually makes you stronger. It's not a block, it's a fortification for the truth of who you are.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and I just like with everything else, folks put fences around their yards for different reasons and things like that. And it's just, I don't know. I personally, we that is one thing that I guess we will definitely have to agree to disagree. I think it's a good thing, and it does nothing for anything except for give some very clear boundaries. And there's nothing wrong with saying, I'd like to come visit. May I come visit? And then go visit, and oh, no, not right now. Now's not a good time. Oh, okay, I'll come back. Whatever. There's nothing wrong with that.
There's something else that Lisa said a minute ago, and I don't remember. It was in the kind of the metaphor with coming in the house and lock at night. So how often has someone wanted to do something? They want to learn a new thing or shift a habit, their way of doing things that they've done before, and then they go, dang it, I forgot, or I let this thing. So when you have boundaries for yourself, it's like this way that's a consciousness helper in that moment. So the boundaries up and becomes innate. So you can do something, you may get thwarted or distracted or something, or maybe your frequencies waver for a minute, but because your boundaries are there, someone can't come in or take something out or usurp your power or not be, if for a moment you're focused on something else and someone can get past your things, that boundary supports you in your staying whole, right? You could think of your automatic breathing apparatus as a boundary that keeps your life force going. So you don't have to be paying attention. I got to breathe. Wait a minute. Hold on. Hold this thought. I got to stop. Right? It's going. It's a boundary that supports the container of your body that knows to breathe while you do a whole myriad of other things.
Yeah. Okay, so moving right along, we remember that governments exist to protect the safety and happiness of their own people. A nation must care for its own citizens first. We must take care of America first. It's time.
This is one of the reasons I think that this, for some love it and some may be more akin to the wall stuff is because even if it hasn't been cognized, there's a knowing that for so very, very long, right, a government exists to protect the safety and happiness of their own people first, just like a government is by the people, of the people, for the people. Hasn't been.
No, it sure hasn't.
And so
No.
to the ways that the root of things, the flow, the groove, the rut that people, have been living under and in full complicit with that, it's just like maybe the mask thing will go away and I'll just have to put up with complicit.
Well, exactly. And I'm not quite sure. See, now, for me, he says we remember that governments exist to protect, because you're right. A lot of folks have forgotten that because it really hasn't really been there.
Yeah,
And
otherwise it's not serving a purpose we want.
And
and I think that's a tense thing again, where we remember, we go back into that which is the etheric and organic original state of this. So we recall, like, we remember, not like, right? Does that make sense? It's a different state and tense.
Right. Well, I'm sorry, Lisa, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, for me, you can't give away what you don't have. If we don't have safety and security at home, then it can't be left to everybody else to give us that. It is about meeting your own needs first. When the oxygen mask deploys in an airplane, you are explicitly instructed to take care of yourself first so that you may be of assistance elsewhere. Because if you can't breathe, you cannot think clearly, and you are of no help. Now you need help. Now you're a liability in this scenario. So it is very important to always put yourself first. This is where your well-being, your health, your emotional stability is your primary care and attention. That's your job. And by doing so, you help others. So if your intention is to be of service to the all, then you must serve self first in the manner that I'm speaking of, being...
We're self as other. That's correct.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Fawn was saying it's a blockage, so it's not free. And the one thing that I wanted that came in for me in that is that I feel because this has been a big issue where the wall is concerned. I feel it as one of those kind of twist things. And I don't quite get it or understand why having a wall means we're not free. Hello, we haven't been free for some.
I was going to say, well, how do you think all the people, the beings of various different sexes, skin colors, ages, demographic, psychographic feel about being free when they are taken from their home and trafficked across the supposed border where there is no wall? There has not been any freedom. It's been an illusion because we haven't been willing to claim it, and we've been complicit in that. And this is the time of unwinding and unbinding all of that. And in this moment, there finally is the thing, and the wall is again, it's a metaphor for standing in our own empowerment to value ourselves enough to care that we actually are worth taking that breath. We are worth having that boundary. We are worth, we have enough value that we matter, that we should take up space, that we should be in existence.
Well,
and when we do that, we give permission and we support everybody else to do the same thing, and we can come together and be one in that united, fully open-hearted, full-throated recognition of the truth of who we are, which is we are all one, and we are the singularity, that shining individual beacon, fully contained in its own vessel and cohesive structure of the all of source.
Right. Well, I don't know. I also, there's something that keeps coming back in, that freedom is a state of mind too. It's a state of responsibility, accountability, liability, that, and I'm not real sure what having a boundary or not having a boundary has to do with something being blocked or something not being free. So there's a question within me in regards to that. I want to say, BZ, that everyone is noting the beautiful light that is behind this.
Spectacular.
So wanted to share that with you.
And actually, the light is responding to people commenting, because look at the beautiful feathers, multicolored feathers that it's.
Yeah, it is.
Did that when you said people were remarking on it. It wasn't playing that way before. It also pulses from where I'm standing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does sometimes. Well, Q team said the wall is more than you know. Without the wall, we had beings not of our biology interfering with our DNA, RNA capabilities. These beings were manifesting with inside of our original origins. I'm not quite sure if I read that right. From source, the wall stops multidimensional beings from inhabiting human form. That's the first time I've heard that, but
no, that's what I'm talking about. There's the wall is multidimensional.
no, I get that.
It's on planes, but I'm saying, but it is what he's talking about. That and so much more. It's like I said, it's more than just this metal, some could say ugly thing with air in between, and it's 300 feet tall. It's more than that.
Okay. Well, moving along, we believe in equal opportunity, equal justice, and equal treatment for citizens of every race, background, religion, and creed. Every child of every color, born and unborn. This is made in the holy image of God. Other than, taking issue with the whole God thing. That's, but, I would digress if I did that. So that's all I would have. Anybody else?
Same.
Nope.
I think more. It's just another more of what we're talking about of that we're all one, regardless of the different thing, and the singularity is what you're experiencing is. Because we chose to come in different ways before we came here to experience different things, to have expansion in different ways, and to play, period, full stop, complete thought, to play in those different things from those different vantage points for our experience and expansion through that.
This next one actually has some very interesting wording in it, if you ask me. We want free and open debate, not speech codes and cancel culture. So, speech codes, eh? That was a very interesting choice of words our president decided to use.
Yes.
And, any ideas, ladies, what he might have meant by that? Come along now. I know you both have some.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, well, for me, I feel like it's speaking to the programming and the conditioning, and not feeling into a thing or thinking for oneself. And, I think that a lot of what's happening right now is just that. You've got people who think for themselves and are feeling into a thing and deciding, this is a good thing that we're building a wall. And then you've got people who are hearing the narrative and feeling very triggered by that narrative. Because really, where are we getting the idea of the wall being limiting is by some very specific voices I've noticed. And when I feel into these voices, it feels like a pressure for a very specific agenda. And the agenda is not for my good. It is for their own perceived goodness, apparently. It does something for them to, and I'll tell you what the something is. You know who's using the lack of a wall in certain areas of our country are those who wish to keep an open forum, an opening for those who wish to harm people here in our country. It is these traffickers.
Yes.
It is, and we're talking about many things that are being trafficked, and those aren't any things I really want in my home. And so I feel like these codes that he's referring to, because I know we talk about codes too, and everything is a code, really. Everything is an energetic frequency of vibration, and it is dangerous to supplant your own feeling and interpreting of those for being handed an interpretation of those.
Yes. So if you think, you know, you can think of someone's trying to hypnotize you or something, they're swinging something in front or whatever. So that's what he's talking about, the speech codes. So they are mind grabs, and they're reaching out, and they are encoded with structures, alchemical structures and spells that can, because they can curl onto other programming that's already there, that's been in there, and it supplants your free will. It supplants your ability to delineate and differentiate between your knowing of something, your seeing it, sensing it with your sensory array, and discerning what's truly there. Are you seeing, you know, is that an illusion, or am I seeing that? Am I feeling it? So let me line up all of my sensory array and go, well, I'm still not sure, or absolutely not, or, well, yeah, that's a go. Because why? Because I'm the expert for me, and I can do that. So that's exactly what he's talking about.
Well, I agree. Well, I knew the moment I saw that it, because I even wrote programmed trigger codes. It's very clear that in some of the indoctrination that's been perpetrated, even amongst, listen, I'm telling you, I've seen it, I've sensed it, I've felt it, and now watching it in some certain circles as you know, as it all unfolds, you know, with certain followers of this over here saying, no, we can't look at that anymore because they're co-opted, and this over here, and everybody gets triggered by different sorts of things. And I recognize that I've talked about that often, about that slight twist in a thing. I don't know how else to explain it. There's a slight twist in some things.
Well, a good kind of film metaphor is the Bourne Identity. So they're going along, doing their own thing, whatever, and they get a call, they get a something, and there's a code. There's a certain phrase that doesn't sound like a perfectly innocuous phrase, and then boom, and they're a killing machine.
No, exactly.
It's a trigger within that. It overrides.
Well, that's a very real thing, by the way, and it's not just, you know, in the movies. It's in
the movies because it has to be hidden in plain sight, so they got to let you know that it's going on. But yeah,
right, because it is. Listen, it's in all of us to some degree until we actually start. Oh, I don't know, putting up boundaries. Number one, and start looking into our own internal workings, and working through a thing or two or three or four or five or six, in my case, 5 million. Curious Looking Inside has a question for you, BZ, and since it's actually been phrased as a question specifically for you, I would like to go ahead and give that to you. If I refused to wear a mask, first time asked, but then avoided stores, shopped online, how is this affecting my whole existence, as BZ mentioned?
Well, what's the space that you're coming? Are you running away from something or moving to something else? Are you in a place of empowerment and ownership for the truth of who you are? Or are you just kind of ducking under something? And the answer is there's no right or wrong answer. You're the only one who can decide what the answer is and how it feels within your being. You know what I mean? But so...
Well, I'll be honest with you, for me, and it's huge. It's just freaking huge. It's the biggest, hugest thing, if you ask me, going right now, is the whole mask sitch, because it's not legal anywhere. They can tell you it is, but it's not.
Well, here's the thing too. Do you, I would turn the phrase around. So,
I'm gonna leave it to you, ladies. I'll be right back. Gotta take a pause for the cause, like we did last night.
So, when you're thinking about that, who was it who wrote the question? Do you remember, Lisa?
No. It was Curious Looking Inside.
Curious Looking Inside. Okay. So, where's your perspective is colored by your perception. Right? So what is your thoughts, your knowing about the truth of reality? What is your thoughts and your knowing about whether or not you truly are free? What's your thoughts and your knowing about being a creator being? What is your thoughts and your knowing that something big is about to happen, or not, depending on your thoughts and your knowing, right? And that the whole construct, as we thought and were told and were programmed that it was, is shifting and changing to something so sublimely delicious, so awe-inspiring, right? So those are going to be your own, right? Your own things. So then you take that on. It is how, it's like an intellectual exercise. You either stand for those things and you're knowing and you're being in it, or you don't. And right here in this moment, the act of the mask thing and standing in that knowing is, you could say, a vote for those things, an actual, hey, I know this, I know the truth of who I am, and I'm walking this way, and nothing will thwart me in doing that, because I know the truth of who I am. And you can also look at it depending on what your answers were to those questions from your own expert in knowing. If you say that you want these things, know these things, are these things, and are willingly participating in that, in claiming your own freedom and being of service to help all others with their freedom, then this is the very act of standing the line and putting what is a bridge too far for you. Forget about everybody else, the whole rest of the world, the galaxies, the multiverse, just disappeared. Just you. What is that line for you? Because the beauty of it is that all these beings, who were, because they're legitimately scared or because they're programmed scared or whatever it is, they can have this mask. But if it wasn't for those beings of us who stand that line, they will not have the space to come around and in this near future, not millennia later, to change their mind right here, right now.
Well, I know that Curious Looking Inside did not actually ask me, but that's never stopped me from answering anything before. So I would like to add to that, BZ, to say for me anyway, um, it's a matter of uh, responsibility
Yes.
as well for me. Those who wish to wear a mask, fine, wear a mask. Take care of yourself. I wrote, and I'm going to put it in the show more section, a link to it. I didn't write it. I recorded a letter from the mayor of Eager, Arizona. And the title of that video is called Responsibility, Responsibility, Reliability, and Accountability, or something like that. And then we will err on the side of freedom. And he said that very many times in his letter.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I preceded it with a writing about a mask. It is all about personal responsibility. If a being feels to wear a mask, fine, wear a mask, but don't make me responsible to wear a mask to protect you, because that's not how any of this works either. It's all about personal. Oh wow, I am so dizzy in this moment. It's all about personal responsibility, and for me, because of the way it is being done, being issued throughout the United States right now, it feels clear to me personally. This is not about a virus. This is not about anything except silencing and seeing how much the American people will give up. Are they ripe? Can we go ahead and really
they're right, man. They're ripe for picking, and you know.
So that is why for me it absolutely, aside from the fact that I can't wear a mask, even if
I can't either, right?
Even if I physically could wear one, which I cannot, but even if I could, I wouldn't.
Right.
I just wouldn't. I don't expect anyone else to make themselves uncomfortable in any sort of way to try to protect me, which there's no protection from any of this. Let's not kid ourselves.
Well, you go back, this, you know, was around the 4th of July and the 1776 and that, you know, little inconsequential document called the, you know, Declaration of Independence and all that kind of stuff. And inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, you can't have life if you cannot breathe. So if someone says to you that you must cover and inhibit and blockade, right, thwart your freedom of the exchange of oxygen molecules into your body and the carbon dioxide out of your body, that goes beyond any kind of anything. It's a fundamental right. Even if this was not a bioweapon virus, which it is, make no mistake, it's fully designed. That's actually a economic bioweapon device, right? Mm-hmm. And it was one where people are dropping the fights. It still would be one's choice to do it because people take responsibility and accountability for themselves. Don't make someone else be the thing for you. This is about standing up in your own, you know, what are you doing for you lately?
Right.
Because it's one of the, it's also a metaphor for if you're not willing to take responsibility for your freedom and your being a kick-ass creator being and knowing it, and then also consciously and responsibly wielding it, right? So two halves of the coin, two sides of the frequency picture. Then you're not able to do that with all others. So that, again, the all and the singularity at the same time.
Right.
Well, can I chime in too?
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
I mean, I know I also was not asked, but I have a thought. Hold on a minute. For me, there's a lot of things. Like as I began to wake up, I could see fraud everywhere in everything. You know, first I thought it was just over here, and so I got rid of that. And then I thought it was over here, and so I'm not going to participate in that. And the more that I see, the more I'm realizing this opportunity to make choices for myself. And so this is what I do for my own internal, how do I choose a thing, what to do and what not to do? I like to feel into it. First of all, I think it doesn't matter what I'm doing. What matters is the frequency with which I do it. My opinion about what I am doing. Like BZ was explaining, what do you think about all of it? And it's what you think about it, whatever it is. So whether it's wearing a mask or anything else. And for me, it is to check my intention, like why would I want to participate in this? And I make sure that I am participating in things that are empowering me, we're operating from the knowledge of who and what I am in every moment. Because, you know, yesterday I might have only had such an awareness, and then, you know, this morning something great happens, and by the afternoon I'm a whole new person, and I might not do today what I did yesterday. So this is a process that I use to check in and say, is this empowering to me? Am I operating from my knowing that I am a creator being and that I am in control of my creations and that I am responsible and liable for my creations? So I don't feel like there's anything anymore, because I used to. I go, well, I can't do that now. And really what I've learned is that was also disempowering to me, because some things I was told were not right to do, but in all actuality, under the right frequency, it is exactly the right thing for me to do. So I don't allow everyone else to dictate what and when I do anything, okay, for one thing. So, you know, there's nothing off limits. Like, I'm just going to take the knee as an example, because there's nothing wrong. There's nothing controversial about taking a knee. But the reason for doing so, am I doing it because I'm stretching my body and I'm honoring my body and I view my body as a temple and I'm loving myself and caring for myself? Or am I doing it out of some sort of guilt, or I'm not worthy, or you know, some other reason that is less than empowering and tethers me to some falsity about who I really am? So there isn't, in my world, anything per se off limits for me to do or to say. What is important for me to monitor is the frequency with which I am performing this thing, whatever I'm saying or doing, because that's really what is creating my next experience.
Yes.
And coming from that position, I feel like I have total confidence that whatever I'm doing, even if it's something that tomorrow I may decide not to partake in, but because my frequency was in the proper alignment, that's really what matters to me. That helps.
Well, thank you for speaking in that particular fashion, because as you were speaking there, I felt, I should say, sensed when I say that I move only towards that which my heart desires in every moment as it is in my field.
Yeah.
Because what came in for me too is that's the difference between gotta go make the donut.
Right.
And it's time to go do this thing that I love to do. And because that's a whole different thing. So thank you for putting it in just that way. That was brilliant. Okay, so are we ready to move on?
Yep.
We embrace tolerance. Oh, no. No, yeah. We embrace tolerance, not prejudice. I don't have anything on that at all. Anybody? Nope.
Nope.
We support the courageous men and women of law enforcement. We will never abolish our police or our great Second Amendment, which gives us the right to keep and bear arms. And I gotta say, I'm sorry. I think it is absolutely hysterical that there was that there was a policeman or a cop, sheriff somewhere that did a video that said, yeah, I got to work today and was told that the abolish the police protest wanted us to work the protest.
They wanted security to protect them. And he said, you can't make this shit up.
Well, listen, that's the other thing about, how they paint stuff with the propaganda, because the numbers, the sheer numbers don't pan out.
No.
There's bad apples in every goddamn thing. And no matter how you slice it, there's going to be, look, I've known people like this. There's a lot of cops. You're right. They are arrogant. Some of them are trigger happy. Some of them, because they got authority. And I know I've come up against those kind of folks too. But they're not, by and large, the majority.
No, the statistics show that they're not at all.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, I don't, that's the only thing I had to add to that. Anything for you guys? Nope. Okay. We believe that our children should be taught to love their country, honor their history, and respect our great American flag.
Only thing I would say to that is, for me, I pick up more again on the toning of how he said it and the frequency of it, and I hear the same sentences worded slightly differently. It's that we're honoring our children, and they're tuning into that which is in alignment with their knowing and their heart. And what he's speaking to is, where you're raised in this thing that it's kind of weird. Here you are, you're growing up in this country, and you go and you're indoctrinated to hate, so you can tear it down and hate everybody else who's standing next to you, because that's what the line is. And so it's taking away all free will choice. It's taking away your own sovereignty about that. And it's ripping asunder, scorched earth style, every boundary and proprietary claim you have to your own sovereign being with flamethrowers and, howitzers.
Well, for me, as I feel into that, because I want every being who resides in every country to feel that exact same way, to what he's speaking here in regards to their own country, their own nationality, their heritage, their
community, their connection,
everything, because this wholesale, you can't listen. The next thing you know, now they're going to say you can't practice this kind of thing over here, because that's all more of that conformity, that programming. That's not individuality. That's not singularity. That's not celebrating the differences. Oh, how effing boring it would be if everybody was wearing the same clothes, walking the same way, talking the same thing.
Well, hey, they are. Look at all the masks that they're mass producing, so that you can have pretty, happy, cute, daisy, puppy, clear neck masks or something.
So the idea that all of these sorts of things have to be abolished for there to be peace is, again, one of those things for me that there's that twist. There's that, oh, it sounds real good because maybe then everybody will get along, but that is not.
Well, just as the masks aren't for your health, these policies aren't to get along for everybody. It's the exact opposite. It's to thwart your freedoms at every turn, for conformity, and not just conformity, for the right for a few to subjugate you to their whims and what is, they get their jollies doing, which, it's been going on for a very, very long time. And some of those jollies are some of the most unspeakable things out there, and they will be spoken.
Yeah. So anything else on that one, ladies? No. We stand tall, we stand proud, and we only kneel to Almighty God. Well, I take issue with that, but that's a whole different program too.
Yeah.
And I said it the right way on purpose. Let's just be clear. Okay, so this is who we are. This is what we believe. And these are the values that will guide us as we strive to build an even better and greater future. Anything on that?
Just the main thing that is the value of valuing the true value. We are the value, the currency. So we can't get to where we are. We can't want to go. We can't build and create a better future until we understand that we are creator beings, and we created this already, and we're completing it, and now we're building something new, and we have to be all in to do that.
Yep. Okay, so those who seek to erase our heritage want Americans to forget our pride and our great dignity, so that we can no longer understand ourselves or America's destiny. In toppling the heroes of 1776, they seek to dissolve the bonds of love and loyalty that we feel for our country and that we feel for each other. Their goal is not a better America. Their goal is the end of America. And boy, ain't that the truth.
You can
There's more truth in that statement right there.
Yes.
Than I've ever heard come out of a president's mouth before.
Yes. The only thing I would add to that is in the day when this was happening, I'd go, here, here.
However, I really feel like it's, and of course the audience booed because, So was there anything else you guys have on that? I really honestly, that for me, when I talking about no longer understand ourselves or America's destiny, the no longer understand ourselves has to do with the erasing of history. That's part of it. And America's destiny, I cannot help but think again of Magenta Pixie's words in regards to where the U.S. goes, so goes the rest of the world.
Yes.
And
more than just this world.
No, exactly. So, that's something that I wanted to bring out there. Okay, so in its place, they want power for themselves. But just as patriots did in centuries past, the American people will stand in their way, and we will win, and win quickly and with great dignity. I swear with all I am sitting right here, that was a shout out to every patriot, Q follower, QAnon,
Light warrior.
Yes, every conspiracy crumb finder and every spiritual being who is holding the light. I honestly feel like that was a shout out to everyone. I see you. I know what you're doing, and you're damn skippy.
Right. And a shout out, and I'm going to call you to action in a couple of paragraphs down.
Yeah, buddy. Oh, curious looking inside, you are absolutely welcome for, she was thanking us for the answering the question. And Susan Allen wants us all to know that she loves it when we do these decodes.
Cool.
She's not the only one. There's been several that have mentioned that, so I want to share that with you guys. Okay, so was there anything else in that one? No? Okay.
No, just the only thing I just wanted to say one thing. Sorry, I can't remember the handle.
Curious looking inside?
There you go. For me, the fact that you asked and played with it, and then we all played with it, gives you just more data for you, because you're the only one that's there, first of all. And second of all, you're the expert, right? So only you, what comes into you with the experiencing of it and the playing of it and the expansion is the next nugget, the next path for you to go to. So it's the same thing. I mean, the fact that you asked that question, right, and that you thought about that and there was playing with it, means that you are changing. You're going through integration phase. You're going through the wrestling with the this and that, and where am I in that, and where is, as I said in that short video I did, you're choosing what is your line that you are going to stand on, right? And then go from there. And it can change very quickly. It can get more and more and more and more and more expansive.
True that. True that. Okay, so we will never let them rip America's heroes from our monuments or from our hearts. By tearing down Washington and Jefferson, these radicals would tear down the very heritage for which men gave their lives to win the Civil War. They would erase the memory that inspired those soldiers to go to their deaths, singing these words of the battle hymn of the Republic. As he died to make men holy, let us die to make men free while God is marching on. Anything from that there? That's just more, for me, that was more of the, erasing of the history. And actually,
well, it's also erasing the humanity of one, and going to the trying to, what all this is doing is our moves to have you go to ascension, but the descension and the inverted constriction of your essence into what it is that the powers that control the planet.
well, something just came for me in regards to all of this, right? What they're trying to do, right? Yeah, there's lots of stuff that has been done that's not the greatest, right? But there's an evolution of consciousness that can clearly be seen, for me anyway, even in what diluted, not diluted, but diluted and or changed up history that we've all been, semi-educated in, and I'm speaking for myself there. There's still an evolution of consciousness that I can see, sense, and feel in all of that. And to try to erase it as though it never took place actually is disrespectful, isn't exactly there. It's disingenuous, and it's like erasing the progress that all of humanity has made in progressing from one way of being. Okay, yeah, so and so over here was a jackass when they first started out because maybe they didn't know any better. But as they grew and changed and grew and become different, then hey, don't we at least give them a chance to, I don't know, do something different with themselves instead of just tearing everything down because, oh, we didn't like that and that's what.
It's it's a disenfranchising your free will, your sovereignty. It's disenfranchising the choices that you have made through the eternity and millennia, that your soul being structure has existed and made choices and been a rat ass bastard and been the being that has done unspeakable things and then has made different choices and different choices and different choices and different choices, and now coming back then in. This is what this is all about. This is what those statues are, the metaphor for. This is what I'm talking about. He's talking, he's laying the story, the groundwork for. This is the multidimensional metaphor construct and actual tangible, touchable reality storyline in a multidimensional format that he's bringing forward for, and all who are listening and watching who know this. This is something that is known on a heartfelt, full, visceral, high heart, open frequency connection. And it's same thing with the mask metaphor. It's that standing for that. Will you stand for that? Will you stand for love absolute?
Well, the other thing too that it feels to me like when speaking on all of this in this particular fashion is that then, because if all of that isn't allowed to be seen, if the progression from being the rat bastard that perpetrated all of that crap is the progression from that to what has gone now isn't seen and felt and understood, where then is the compassion that would be needed to handle all of that? And so that is also at the core of trying to tear all of that down, if you ask me, when you really feel into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, that just came in for me. So that's a huge, huge portion of what this is, I feel.
Well, and it's also us as a nation embracing what has happened to us because it's made us who we are today. Yeah, like there have been some unsavory things that have happened to me, but I embrace and love all of it now because I wouldn't be the me that I am without those experiences. They are directly responsible for bringing me here. And it would be a huge disservice to me and to the other beings actually involved to erase all of that. And then, like you were saying, the progress goes with it.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you, because and by trying to, I mean, look, haven't we seen enough of what it looks like when you try to pretend that something doesn't exist or that it didn't happen?
Yes, because what you resist persists. So hey, it's. I was just gonna say it's like a tractor beam or shooting a super glue gun on something, and you're just boomeranging the distortion right back on you.
Exactly. Okay. Was that all that you guys had on that one too?
Yeah. What number we were on? The 69, right?
Yeah. Now we're on number 70.
Okay. The only thing I was going to say is that I don't know how long we started before this, but
I know this was supposed to be on the one on July 5th, but we're not quite through with July 3rd. I mean, July 4th, but we still haven't finished July 3rd
not
yet.
Quite, love it. Well, we're just about to do 70. We got 92 total. So
I know.
My gas tank is
the gas tank is empty. Okay. Yeah. Well, what we'll do, do you have any ideas when you might be able to play again?
Well, if I can get a wee bit of shut-eye and not have too much of a interesting work day tomorrow, perhaps tomorrow or the next day. So.
Okay. All right. Well,
Well, I'd like to finish this, yeah, but
so are you
not
saying
tonight.
say what?
So let's do 70. And
Okay.
then if people want to come back and play, we come back and play hopefully tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then Tuesday.
Okay. All right. Awesome. All right. So number 70, they would tear down the principles that propelled the abolition of slavery in America and ultimately around the world, ending an evil institution that had plagued humanity for thousands and thousands of years. Our opponents would tear apart the very documents that Martin Luther King used to express his dream and the ideas that were the foundation of the righteous movement for civil rights. They would tear down the beliefs, culture, and identity that have made America the most vibrant and tolerant society in the history of the earth. Well, the one thing that I can say about that is that it just feels more, even more so, what I said in the paragraph above. That without all of that history, without all of that, again, I'm not sitting here saying, oh, we're the best little kids on the block and we always have been. And you go, that's American exceptionalism. So that's not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying the only way forward, at least for me, this is all about me right now. The only way forward for me is to see what has been, accept, love what has been, forgive it if need be, and move along to do something different with it. Whole it into something rather than, because there is no cutting out, there is no suppressing or oppressing. That's what we've had going on.
Has to be integrated.
Yeah. So that was it for me.
What I feel here is that, you know, the core energetic frequency of this paragraph and his toning behind it is they would tear down and obliterate your soul. That is ultimately what they wish to do. And is that good with you or not? Would you like to be completely taken over or even have your soul being where it's, and this can be done, and it's totally legal in all realms, but and it's one of the things that is gets you the ultimate, once source has the conversation with you, of going back to the super soul. So the super source, right, so taken out of existence permanently, and that is where they can actually take over and subjugate your soul for then their purposes, and it's not you anymore. That which was you, that singularity, that energy frequency, vibrational structure ceases to exist. Which is one of the reasons that I say and know with every being, fiber of my being, is that aside from the fact, it's one of the reasons I can't, but it's just one, you know, that's not linear, is that it would compromise my very existence, because it speaks to all of this. This is all connected. It's not, you know, this thing or that thing. It's all connected. It's the same vibrational frequency. And what is vibrational frequency? It's the no-thingness before it turns into materialized, structured form that you can see, touch, taste, sense, smell, experience, however you want to describe it.
Do you have anything on that one, Lisa?
No, not really. Just other than, you know, what BZ was saying there, that they would really like to, you know, absorb you, take away all your free will, and, you know, when they want your opinion, they'll give you one. And yeah, we have to decide whether that's okay with us or not.
Yeah.
For me, it's not okay. So
Well, I want to do this one last one. Well, not one last, the next one to end on this one.
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask what I'd like to do is do 71 twice.
Okay.
So what I'd like to do is do setting one here to play with it a little for people to then play with, right? Because it speaks to the question, some of the questions that we've gotten moving forward, right?
Right.
And then when we come back and we do it again, it sets the tone. We actually do it again because
Right.
other things are coming, in the next even 24 hours that will speak to this even more, very
Yes.
powerfully on Monday morning, July
6th.
6th, right? So that's, if we could do that twice.
Okay. Yeah, I would love to. I made a star, so that's where we'll begin. So, my fellow Americans, it is time to speak up loudly and strongly and powerfully and defend the integrity of our country. And for me, that is that call to action that you talked about earlier, BZ. And it is for me standing in and up for me.
That's right.
It is our country,
You could
but
say your being, your body, your
yes.
existence, all that you are. Yes.
Yep, all that you are. And this too is why, like I said, April 27th, I think it was, AG Barr did that memo that said, yeah, we're in a crisis, but that does not suspend the Constitution. And that is and then right after that memo, he updated the deprivation of rights under color of law. And none of these things are happening in isolation, people. And it speaks exactly to this right here, as far as I'm concerned. It is time. You don't want to wear a mask? You don't have to wear a mask. And if they try to make you, turn them in, because it's
Right.
time. And that's what this is
It
speaking
is
to.
time. And it's the mask is just a small, tiny metaphor. And
Yes.
it's your existence. You're choosing now. You are, make no mistake about it. This, what does Q say? This is not your average 4-year election. This is not your average breath that you're going to take or not take. This is your existence. This is your right to be a soul in all of Source's multiverses, and you're standing for it. You are choosing. You're being, you are deciding to be in integrity and in your life force and your kick-ass creator beingness, or not.
Yep. And look, I listen. And if you're in the not category, okay, that's fine by me. I got no judgment on it. But at the same time, nobody gets to choose for anybody else.
That's right.
Period. End of story. That's the way it goes. None of us get to choose. We all get to choose for ourselves. And none of us have the right to choose, to try to even think about choosing for anybody else. And that's the way I feel about it. So, is that it, ladies? Or is that?
Well, I actually got nudged a third time, so I'm going to go with it. The one last thing I would add to that part is in the cosmically delicious, sublimely deliciousness of open-heartedness, of love absolute. Those who choose for themselves, who choose that, to stand that line, to have that open heart, to make that conscious decision, are actually doing it for themselves and all others. Because when those others who may have chosen something else or may not have consciously chosen, or whatever the case may be, the path has been paved. Remember, the light has won, but only we can choose and make it happen in the materialized world and go in that path. And so what we're doing is not only for ourselves, because we're the only one here, but beyond that, we forge that path by making that choice. We forge that path. We open it through. The light has won. It's materialized. And at the last moment, which is coming up pretty close here, the last moment, those beings who may have, to use the metaphor of the mask, may have chosen the mask, can go, wait, and jump at the last moment. Why? Because we've paved that full-throated energetic frequency path for them to be able to do that. Because in our very act of standing in our knowing and our truth and doing that and standing that line, we've allowed them to, and not only allowed, it's we've gifted, we've by design let that ability for them to draft on our wings.
Yep. I agree. All right. Well, I would love it if everyone here will hold the energy that BZ get rest and have an easy day tomorrow so we can pick this up tomorrow night. I'm going to change the title of this one to part 2 of the Keystone rather than, and then we will finish this one and, you know, hopefully get on to the one from July 4th, because there was a lot.
Or the next one that may have already been here.
Right. So I want to thank everyone for coming and hanging out with us and your questions and your participation. It's always desired and appreciated and everything. If you are watching this later, not live on BZ's channel, come on over and give Conscious Conversation Central some love and hit that subscribe button. If you, those of you who are watching this live now here on Conscious Conversation Central, if you would also go to BZ's channel and make sure to subscribe over there, because BZ also does videos that she puts up over there that are not on my channel. And let's see, what else?
Hit the bell twice.
Oh, yes, that's right. BZ found out.
Ding, ding.
Yeah, if you hit the notification bell twice, that we heard, we don't know for sure, but we heard that it's supposed to solve the unsubscribing issue. It's one of those little Easter egg things they don't tell you about.
Yeah, Gorka says it's written in the algorithm for the.
Ah, interesting. Well, I wouldn't put it past them because
It's kind of like double opt-in. They just don't tell you got to double opt-in.
Yeah, you weren't holding your face right when you asked the wrong question. That's the problem with that.
Are you sure you want to be notified? Are you really sure? Yes. Okay.
So I will count on BZ to give us an update tomorrow. I will make an announcement as soon as I have the word that yes, it's a go. I will try to make sure that we have the right time. BZ switched it up on me a little bit at the last minute. I put it out that we were going to start at 9, but we started earlier. So again, make sure you hit that subscribe button twice so you're notified. And so hopefully they'll notify you in time that you could actually show up, other than, you know, calling everybody on the phone and saying, hey, we're getting ready to go live. I don't know how else we can do it. So,
well, what I would say is that if I can do it tomorrow, it would be no later than 9. But hey, you know, if we're going to create, we might as well create it cool. It may be 8.
Yeah, that's right.
Eastern, I'm talking about.
Yeah, 8 o'clock Eastern time. So everybody can start looking out for it at that point. I guess that's it. I should be live in the morning, but I don't know why that's a hesitation there. If for some reason I don't show up in the morning, I will definitely let you guys know. I don't know. Maybe there's something there. I don't know. I do know, I want to share real quick though. I do know that I am going to try to see a van tomorrow. Lisa and Albert and I happened to see one on the way home from her mom's house the other day. I called and spoke with the folks. So hopefully I can go over and take some video of it and share with you guys and see what's the what with that. So thank you, Sherry Finelli. Thank you all of you for showing up. And till next time, I think I didn't leave anything out, did I?
No, just everybody play for yourself with number 71. and then we'll
Yeah,
all
shall
play
I read
together.
it again? Shall I
Yeah.
read it again?
Go ahead.
Okay. So BZ is requesting everybody play with this one, and then we'll come back and talk about it tomorrow. My fellow Americans, it is time to speak up loudly and strongly and powerfully and defend the integrity of our country. Oh, the integrity of you,
That's
actually.
right. That's what
Yeah,
it
I
is.
would invite you to exchange the word country for you, because that's the way I feel about that
That's
too.
the way I hold it. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thanks everybody. Mwah. Till next time.
Much love.